Chapter 650. The two of them were silent for a long time. Yun Shishir couldn't help but ask. There was a doubt that had been lingering in her heart for a long time. She had always wanted to ask him for confirmation, but she never had the chance. After thinking for a long time, she still wanted to ask him. Muyaja, can I ask you a question? Yun Shishir suddenly asked. Yes, ask. Yun Shishir suddenly sat up straight and faced him, her eyes calm. You should know my identity. Muyaja was stunned, but he soon understood what Yun Shishir was referring to. After careful consideration, he decided not to hide it from her, so he confessed. I found out about your identity 6 years ago. Yun Shishir was shocked. She would never have thought that this man would have found out about her identity 6 years ago. How did you know about my identity? DNA. He looked up. Have you forgotten? 6 years ago, before you signed the surrogacy contract, you did a blood test. Your blood sample report shows that your blood type is MNSSU. This blood type is very rare, the rarest of the rare blood types. Yun Shishir frowned slightly. Her blood type was indeed very rare in the world. But how could you be so sure that I'm Mu Qingqing's daughter just based on my blood type? Yun Shishir asked. You know, there are many coincidences. Maybe it's just a coincidence. He looked at her and suddenly said, You look very much like her, very much like her. They were exactly the same. Especially her temperament and charm, it was impossible to replicate. If her photo was placed next to Mu Qingqing's, no one would suspect that they were not mother and daughter. Muyaja still retained the appearance of Mu Qingqing when she was young in the depths of his memory. When Mu Qingqing left the Mu family, he was already 5 years old and could remember things. Even if his memory of Mu Qingqing was very vague, her beautiful face was deeply engraved in his memory and left a deep impression. When he saw her photo 6 years ago, he felt that she was somewhat familiar. It was only when he saw Mu Qingqing's photo in Mu Xing's study that his suspicions were confirmed. Therefore, he ordered the hospital to take Yun Shishir's blood sample for a paternity test. The DNA database still has Mu Qingqing's DNA report. After comparison, your DNA matches hers perfectly. This answer completely confirmed his guess. Muyaja lowered his gaze and met her eyes. I've already found out that you're Mu Qingqing's daughter. So you already knew. Yun Shishir smiled bitterly. She lowered her eyes slightly and slowly said, Mu Wanru stole my jade pendant. By a freak combination of factors, she took my identity and was recognized by the Mu Jia. Sadly, I only found out about this matter recently. From the moment she entered the Mu family, I thought that she was very suspicious. Yun Shishir was a little surprised. Then, why didn't you say anything? Is it important? Muyaja suddenly asked. Who was Mu Wanru? Was her identity real? It did not matter to him. Why is it not important? Yun Shishir smiled bitterly. If fate didn't play tricks on me, I would have been your fiancé from the start. They would not have met so late. She would not have met him in such an awkward position. Chapter 651. If not, they would not have met so late. She would not have faced him in such an awkward position. Instead, she would have stood beside him as his legitimate fiancé. Muyaja smiled at this. He could not help but ruffle her silky hair. This silly woman must have thought that if she were the one who had returned to the Mu family 15 years ago, she would have become his legitimate fiancé. Alas, he did not think so. In a way, if Mu Wanru had not replaced her, he might not have fallen in love with this woman. 15 years ago, he could only resist and reject Mu Qingqing. The young Muyaja harbored a strong enmity toward this woman. Mu Qingqing was the woman his father dreamed of and the woman his mother hated for the rest of her life. She was the woman his father cherished for the rest of his life. Mu Lianqing had given her his love for the rest of his life. His heart had always been with Mu Qingqing, and it had never left her. Infatuation and devotion. Jiang Yishan's initial anger and humiliation to her eventual despair and depression were all caused by this woman. In Muyaja's mind, Mu Qingxing was undoubtedly a woman who had committed a heinous crime. It was this woman who, without any effort, made his parents' marriage disappear in name only. She was the main culprit. Hence, when Mu Xing pushed the 9-year-old Mu Wanru in front of him and told him that she was Mu Qingxing's daughter, his younger sister, and his future wife, Mu Yaja was furious. Mu Yaja looked at Mu Wanru with eyes full of disgust. He found her disgusting. However, for the inheritance of the Mu family's head, he did not hesitate to use her. He used her as the price to obtain the inheritance of Dishing Financial Group. It was only when he grew up that he understood. His father and mother's marriage was a sacrifice in the game between the rich and powerful. This marriage had nothing to do with romance or love. One had no choice but to marry, and the other had no choice but to marry. It was a transaction in name only. Mu Qingxing was not a third party. On the contrary, she had always been a chaste woman. However, his father's infatuation with Mu Qingxing had never changed. Only then did he erase his hatred towards Mu Qingxing. Perhaps, if she were the one Mu Xing had brought back to the Mu family 15 years ago, he did not even dare to imagine if she would become his pawn. Mu Wanru replaced her identity and entered the Mu family, but she also replaced her and became the chess piece in his hands. To replace her as the victim. Fate seemed to have its own will. They had met at just the right time. Sometimes, a freak combination of factors might not actually be a freak combination of factors. However, in order to meet her, he had probably used up all his luck. 6 years ago, Mu Wanru was found to be infertile. You should know about this, Mu Yaja suddenly said slowly. Yun Shishir nodded. Yes, I know. He lowered his gaze. She wasn't born infertile. When Yun Shishir heard this, she widened her eyes in shock and looked at him in disbelief. How can that be? I heard that the Mu family even invited the most authoritative medical research center in the country for this matter. Dishing Financial Group controls 40% of the country's medical market share. Mu Yaja's lips curled into an extremely sinister smile. That's why it's not difficult for me to forge a diagnosis. Chapter 652. What do you mean? She somewhat understood, but also somewhat did not understand. She always felt that Mu Wanru's pregnancy was very suspicious from the beginning to the end. Thinking about it carefully, it's very strange. 6 years ago, Mu Wanru rushed into the room and condescendingly threatened her. If not for her infertility, she would not be the surrogate. Therefore, she learned that the fiancé of the employer who signed the contract with her was infertile. How could a person who had been judged by various authoritative organizations suddenly get pregnant? It's extremely strange. It's simply impossible. Although there are miracles, Mu Wanru's miracle is too strange. Mu Yaja looked at her face that constantly changed, and slowly said, her so-called infertility diagnosis was forged by me. Forged by others. Yes. What kind of power does this man have? In the capital, Mu Yaja's family business is big, and he can cover the sky with one hand. And Mu Yaja is a person who can turn clouds and rain with a wave of his hand, playing with a lot of carnage. To forge a certificate of infertility, for him, it's just a matter of moving his mouth. But, why did you do this? Yun Shishir was shocked and asked the confusion in her heart. Mu Yaja's eyes slightly twitched, and the bottom of his eyes burst out a biting cold light, but he said lightly, because she is a chess piece. A chess piece must obey the will of the master. This is the duty of a chess piece. Yun Shishir was shocked. However, after thinking about it carefully, she was not surprised. Such ruthless and indifferent words, from his mouth, she did not feel strange. However, she still felt confused. Chess piece? What chess piece? At the beginning, Grandpa ordered me to marry her. Mu Yaja hooked up his lips and smiled. If I get engaged with her, I can get the inheritance of the Mu Jia's lord. The Mu Jia is very big, but not everyone is qualified to enter the Mu Jia's main house. Only the Mu Jia's patriarch and the next generation's patriarch are eligible to live in the Mu Jia's main residence. At that time, his father had passed away. In such a large clan, he and his mother depended on each other for survival, and every step they took was filled with trepidation. The Mujia also has many factions within the Mujia. Both the direct descendants and the cadet branches were eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey. He was Mu Xing's proudest grandson and the most favorable candidate to be the next head of the family. Thus, there was no doubt that he had become a thorn in the side of those people. Many people wanted to get rid of him. Every day, every moment, passed with fear and trepidation. Therefore, at that time, the inheritance of the Mu family was undoubtedly a protective talisman for him and his mother. At that time, grandfather was old and his health was deteriorating. After my father passed away, the position of the head of the family had always been empty. Many people were eyeing it covetously, and grandfather had always been hesitant about whether he should settle the position of the head of the family. Mu Yaja said expressionlessly, "As for me, as the most powerful candidate, many people are eyeing me covetously. But I wasn't old enough then. In order to get the power of succession, I used marriage as a bargaining chip. Mu Wanru, on the other hand, is just a pawn for me to use. Do you think I'll have feelings for a chess piece?" Yun Shusher's heart turned cold. This man, he was actually so cold and two-faced. He could actually use someone to this extent. If Mu Wanru knew that her infertility diagnosis was all used by this man, and she was the victim of his schemes, how would she feel? Chapter 653. She felt that Mu Wanru was really pitiful. She was so affectionate to the man she loved, but in the end, she didn't know that she was just a pawn in Mu Yaja's hands. Pitiful, sad, but she didn't feel sympathy. Wasn't she asking for all this? Yun Shusher was shocked and couldn't help but feel that it was unbelievable. Then, if it was her who returned to the Mu family 15 years ago, would she also become a pawn of a man? Then, she's pregnant now. Whose is the child? She asked carefully. Mu Yaja glanced at her and then said, "It's not mine." Then whose is it? Alan, my personal assistant. You probably haven't seen him before. Yun Shusher thought about it carefully for a while. Amidst her thoughts, she quickly realized that she might have seen this man before. That day in the bathroom of the restaurant, she had seen a man who had an ambiguous relationship with Mu Wanru. Although Mu Wanru appeared to be distant from him, from the man's behavior and expression, and even the way he looked at Mu Wanru, it was silently announcing the intimate relationship between them. How intimate? She didn't know. I've seen that man. He looks clean and gentle. He's probably the Alan you mentioned. When? Just a few days ago, I met him in a restaurant. You saw him? Yes. What did she say to you? Yun Shusher's expression changed. She told me that she's pregnant with your flesh and blood. Mu Yaja played with her fingers with interest, then suddenly looked up and glanced at her playfully. So, you're jealous. It was not a rhetorical question, but a statement. Because of jealousy, she put his number on the blacklist. No. Yun Shusher denied stubbornly. Mu Yaja obviously didn't believe her, and there was a playful smile in his eyes. Little liar, you're obviously jealous. No. Okay, no. He smiled indulgently, but did not intend to argue with this woman who did not mean what she said. She didn't expect this little fool to be so arrogant. He liked her arrogance. He liked everything about her. Yun Shusher stared at his handsome face and suddenly burst into laughter. She couldn't hide the smile on her face. What are you laughing at? Mu Yaja frowned and asked in confusion. Our young master Mu has been cuckolded. Yun Shusher teased mercilessly. Mu Yaja's expression instantly changed, and his eyes suddenly became as cold as ice. It doesn't count. Huh? He suddenly stood up and grabbed her wrists, pulling her into his embrace. Yun Shusher was caught off guard and fell into his arms. Mu Yaja lifted her chin and said word by word, "You are my woman." She's not. Yun Shusher was shocked, and her eyes widened. So, it doesn't count. I'm just joking, and you're taking it seriously? Yun Shusher covered her mouth and laughed. Mu Yaja, you're really like a child sometimes. No. Mu Yaja lowered his gaze and hugged her in his arms. Lowering his head, he pecked her fingertips and breathed out, "I'm your man." Yun Shusher's cheeks blushed, and she pursed her lips without saying a word. "I'm your man, so I'll protect you." This was a responsibility that he had to fulfill as her man. She looked up and gently bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth. Chapter 654. Her heart was deeply touched by his words. "Mu Yaja, are you not letting me into the Mu family to protect me?" "Huh? Why do you ask?" "Intuition, I guess." Yun Shusher's eyes curved as her lips curled up slightly. "The Mu family gives me the feeling that it's a tiger's den. It doesn't feel warm at all. The family I want isn't like this. I won't let you step into such a scary place." Mu Yaja caressed her flawless face and could not help but touch her eyelashes. "I'll protect you and you well." Song Enya was sent to the hospital by a friend. The abrasions had already scabbed over, and the doctor cleaned and bandaged them for her. For an ordinary person, this was not considered a serious injury. However, for Song Enya, who had never suffered any injuries since she was young, this was probably the most serious one she had ever suffered. Along the way, she was depressed. When she thought of Yun Shusher's heart-wrenching words, she felt extremely aggrieved. When Jiang Qimeng and Song Yunshi saw her return, they wanted to invite her to eat dessert. However, when they saw her worried face and her limping, they looked at each other in shock. Jiang Qimeng's heart ached and she immediately went forward to ask, "Enya? What happened to you?" Song Yunshi also hugged her shoulders nervously and asked a few questions. Song Enya did not say a word. He lowered his head until he saw the bandaged wound on her knee. He scanned her from head to toe and saw that there were different degrees of abrasions all over her body. She was in a sorry state. "Enya, what happened to you?" Song Yunshi was a little anxious. "Why are you covered in injuries?" "Boo-hoo. Brother." Song Enya's nose twitched. In the end, she could not hold it in and threw herself into his arms, wailing bitterly. "Enya, what happened to you? Why are you like this? What exactly happened? Tell me." Jiang Qimeng was also anxious at the side. However, Song Enya just kept crying sadly. She curled up in Song Yunshi's arms and cried as if the world was about to collapse. Song Yunshi's heart ached and she was at a loss. However, at this moment, she didn't know what to do with her precious little sister. Jiang Qimeng was also anxious at the side. Song Enya had always been the princess of the Song Yunshi family. She was the apple of her parents' eye and was especially doted on. However, when Jiang Qimeng saw her precious daughter crying wantonly in Song Yunshi's arms, she could not help but feel a knife in her heart. But she couldn't do anything about her daughter. Her daughter had always liked to stick to her since she was young, but for some reason, after puberty, she became less close to her. No matter what happened, he rarely mentioned it to her. Perhaps it was because he had matured and some things were inconvenient to tell her. Therefore, as her mother, Song Enya rarely told her what was on her mind. Instead, she was very close to Song Yunshi and would tell her everything. After all, Song Yunshi was the eldest brother in the family, and he loved his two younger sisters very much. Song Enya was very dependent on him. Hence, Jiang Qimeng gave Song Yunshi a look. The latter understood and lowered his head to Song Enya. "Enya, tell me if there's anything. Brother will make a decision for you, okay?" Song Enya nodded slowly and said in a choked voice, "Brother. I'm so sad. I feel like I can't breathe." She thought of Yun Shusher's provocation in front of her. Every single word of his was still ringing in her ears. Chapter 655. She did not believe it. She really did not believe that Yun Shusher was Brother Mu's beloved woman. She also did not believe that Xiao Yichen was her and Brother Mu's child. However, facts spoke louder than words. Yun Shusher did not seem to be lying. The main thing was that she had carefully observed this woman's eyebrows and eyes. They really resembled Xiao Yichen's. Could it all be true? Years ago, there was a rumor that Mu Wanru was infertile, so the Mu family offered a sky-high price for Xiao Yichen to be a surrogate and not Mu Wanru's biological child. Could Yun Shusher be that mysterious surrogate mother? Song Yunshi brought her into the room and sat on the bed. Under Song Yunshi's gentle persuasion, Song Enya finally calmed down a little. She relied on Song Yunshi as much as anyone else. Song Yunshi was the only one who could truly tolerate her unreasonable behavior. It was to the extent that she was only willing to talk to him about anything. "Brother, do you think it's possible between Brother Mu and me?" Song Enya clenched her hands tightly and asked carefully. Song Yunshi was furious. He suddenly stood up with a gloomy expression. "I knew it was him. Other than him, no one else has the ability to make you so distracted." He paced back and forth on the spot. Suddenly, he squatted in front of her and held her shoulders tightly. He asked seriously, "Silly sister, do you like that man so much? I've told you many times that it's impossible between you and him. Didn't I tell you to give up? I like him. I've liked him for more than 10 years. You're asking me to give up just like that? I can't take it lying down, brother." She pouted. "But you're related to him by blood. No one knows better than you whether it's possible between you and him." Song Yunshi slammed the table in anger. His sister had liked to stick to Muyaja since she was young. When they were young, she would follow him and call Muyaja uncle. But without the adolescent years of a young girl's heart, she felt that this uncle was constantly reminding her of their blood relationship. She deceived herself and changed the way she addressed Muyaja. It was as if this would shorten the distance between them. He didn't know what this girl was thinking. She was always talking about Brother Mu, Brother Mu. It was as if she had lost her mind. He was possessed by her. Irritated, Song Yunshi rubbed the hair on his forehead and glared at her in exasperation. The Missy was taken aback by his anger, but she persisted. "So what if we're related by blood? I like Brother Mu and want to marry him." "Nonsense. You're just messing around." Song Yunshi stood up angrily. "Song Enya, you and I should call him uncle. You're his niece. It's fine if you don't call him Uncle Mu, but you keep saying that you want to be with him. Don't you know that this is indecent? If word gets out that you're doing this, it'll only embarrass the Song family. You'll embarrass me and our parents." Song Enya was indignant. "I have many cousins who are together, and their children are all very healthy. This isn't considered indecent, right? What are you doing? Are you lying to yourself?" Song Yunshi glared at her angrily and could not help but reach out to poke her head. "Use your brain and think about it. If you marry your uncle, what will outsiders think?" Chapter 656. "You!" Song Yunshi pointed at her and cried out in anger. Song Enya glared at her and pursed her lips stubbornly. However, looking at the tears in her eyes, Song Yunshi's heart softened. "Let's not talk about this anymore. It's useless for me to talk about this. You'll figure it out sooner or later." Song Yunshi could only comfort herself and hope that her sister would completely give up on Muyaja one day. Even in the wealthy families, such marriages between cousins were not uncommon. However, the Song family had been a famous scholarly family in the capital for generations, especially during Old Master Song's generation. They were one of the 10 founding generals of the country and had outstanding achievements. Their status in the capital was important and illustrious. Even the Mu family had to give the Song family some face. Therefore, the Song family was strict. If Old Master Song knew about this, he would probably be so angry that he would expel Song Enya from the family. Song Yunshi naturally could not let her sister go astray and sit back and do nothing. "I can't figure it out. I really can't figure it out. I thought Brother Mu doted on me the most. I thought he liked me too." Song Enya could not figure it out no matter how hard she tried. She was the person Muyaja had always doted on the most. Even Mu Wanru, his fiancée, he had never doted on her so much. In Song Enya's eyes, Muyaja was cold to everyone else, but toward her, he doted on her in every possible way. She thought that she must be very special in Muyaja's heart. However, tonight's incident had dealt him a huge blow. There's a reason why he dotes on you so much. Don't you know? Song Yunshi felt that she was hopeless. What's the reason? Because you look very similar to Auntie Jiang. Song Yunshi sat in front of her and carefully looked at her face. From the photo, you look almost exactly the same. When Auntie Jiang passed away, almost no one could get close to Uncle Mu. Only you, because of your face, gave him great comfort. It is precisely because your face is similar to Auntie Jiang's that he would pour his longing for Auntie Jiang onto you. The so-called love, to put it bluntly, you are just a substitute. Understand? Auntie Jiang and I look alike? Song Enya touched her face in disbelief. She was obviously confused by Song Yunshi's words. Seeing her confused look, Song Yunshi was a little surprised. Didn't Uncle Mu mention it to you? He had heard about this from Jiang Qimeng. Song Enya's face was very similar to Jiang Yishan's. When Jiang Yishan passed away, Mu Yaja locked himself in his room and did not come out. He did not eat or drink. In the Mu family, Mu Yaja's affection for his mother was deeper than anyone else's. The death of his beloved family member was a heavy blow to him. At that time, Jiang Qimeng brought Song Enya to the Mu family to attend Jiang Yishan's funeral and mourn. That was the first time he saw little Enya. At that time, Mu Yaja, who was still young, stared at her for a long time. His face was expressionless as tears streamed down his face. He hugged her tightly in his arms. The more he missed Jiang Yishan, the more he doted on Song Enya. Song Enya was undoubtedly Mu Yaja's sustenance. He thought that Song Enya knew about this. Chapter 657. Song Yunshi sighed helplessly. That's because Auntie is the deepest pain in his heart. That's why he rarely mentions her. Song Enya was silent for a while before she suddenly asked, Brother, do you have Auntie's photo? What do you want to do? I'm curious. I've never seen Auntie's face before. After hearing what you said, I also want to see how similar I look to her. Song Enya said matter-of-factly. Song Yunshi pulled out a photo from the album. It was the only photo of the sisters, Jiang Qimeng and Jiang Yishan. Song Enya took a look. Indeed, her facial features were very similar to Jiang Yishan's. If others saw it, they would only think that she was Jiang Yishan's daughter. She stared at the photo in a daze. So, the reason Brother Mu doted on her so much was because she had a face similar to Auntie's? Song Enya stared at the photo and could not help caressing her cheek. The corners of her lips curled into a sly, deep arc. She looked like Auntie Jiang. Did that mean that at least Brother Mu wouldn't hate her? Did that mean that she still had a chance? That Yun Shusher was nothing. Even if Brother Mu doted on her, it was at most a whim. Who knew, she might be smug now and abandon him not long after. However, Brother Mu would not abandon her. She loved him. Even if it was because of ethics, even if she did not have a proper status, she did not care at all. Her face was the bargaining chip that she held tightly in her hands. She must snatch Brother Mu back from that woman. Song Enya pursed her lips tightly. She did not know that she had such a unique advantage in the past. So what if she was a substitute? So what if she was just a part of Brother Mu? No matter what identity or method she used, as long as she could stay by the side of the man she loved, she would endure any grievances and use any means. Song Yunshi did not know what Song Enya was thinking in her heart at this moment. She only lifted a corner of her skirt and looked at the bloody gauze with extreme heartache. What's going on with your wound? Song Enya returned to her senses and looked at Song Yunshi's worried and heartbroken expression. She immediately pretended to be aggrieved and complained, Brother, someone bullied me. Song Yunshi was furious. Who bullied you? Yun Shusher. This is the woman who hit me. Hit you? Song Yunshi was so shocked that she stood up all of a sudden. Her handsome eyes were filled with anger. Who is Yun Shusher? Where did this woman get the guts to bully you? Woo woo, sobbing, Song Enya recounted what had happened that night. This time, Song Yunshi was completely infuriated. Normally, he couldn't even bear to lay a finger on his precious little sister. But now, she had been bullied outside and was even injured all over. How could he bear it? Song Yunshi clenched her fists and gritted her teeth in anger. That woman is called Yunshishir, right? Brother, don't be angry. She seems to be Brother Mu's woman. Although she's quite arrogant, Brother Mu dotes on her, so she definitely has nothing to fear. You'd better not stand up for me. What if you offend Brother Mu? She's just a woman. Although the Mu family is powerful and influential, they still have to give the Song family some face in the capital. I don't believe that he'll offend the Song family for a despicable woman. Enya, don't be sad. I'll stand up for you. Chapter 658. The night was getting darker. Mu Yaja sent Yunshishir home. Along the way, Yunshishir was still immersed in the surprise just now and couldn't come back to her senses. Before this, Mu Yaja took her in a helicopter and flew around the island. This was her first time in a helicopter. It was very novel and interesting. Looking down at the night scene of the island from high up in the sky, the entire island was decorated with starlight. The colorful lights reflected on the surface of the lake, dyeing the surface of the lake into a beautiful color. At a glance, it was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Even though she was a little nervous when she boarded the helicopter for the first time, when she looked down at Hushin Island, she was deeply impressed by the beautiful scenery. No wonder it was said that all girls dreamed of going on a date with the man they loved in a Bali restaurant. No matter how big or small, it was so romantic that it made people feel as if they had entered a fantasy world. The night wind blew, and Hushin Island seemed to be surrounded by a sea of stars. However, the surprise was far more than she had imagined. When she walked down from the helicopter, under the cluster of fireworks, more than 10,000 roses almost covered the ground. She couldn't help but have the illusion that she was in a sea of flowers. In the past, when she was still in school, she often saw couples sending roses to each other. 1, 2, and even some boys sent a car full of roses to make the girls happy. At that time, she thought that sending roses was really tacky. Was there no other way to express romance? However, when she looked at the roses in front of her, which were like a carpet of flowers, against the gorgeous fireworks, reflecting the dreamy colors, she was so surprised that she was suffocating. It turned out that a sea of roses was so beautiful. It was so beautiful that she couldn't come back to her senses for a long time. Tonight's date had more or less satisfied all of her desires for a date. Mu Yaja glanced at Yunshishir sitting in the passenger seat, who was holding her heart and lost in thought. He couldn't help but laugh. What are you thinking about? Mu Yaja, do you know? I originally thought that sending roses was tasteless. Yunshishir turned to look at him, her eyes full of surprise. But tonight, I understand why girls like roses. Not only was he surprised, but he was also touched. She was so touched that she wanted to cry. It was a kind of touched feeling of being doted on. It turned out that girls all yearned for romance. Even in the past, he felt that giving a woman roses was very unromantic. But if it was someone she liked, that would be great. He had wanted her to stay by his side for one more night, but Yunshishir insisted on going home to accompany Yu. Previously, she had told Yu that she had to film a few scenes overnight and would not be able to return home for a few nights. Yu's disappointed expression made her heart ache. Therefore, she wanted to hurry home and accompany him. The car stopped at the entrance of the villa. Yunshishir gets out of the car and sees that the light in the study is still on. His heart skipped a beat. She subconsciously raised her hand to look at her watch. It was already past 1 in the morning. What was this child doing? Why aren't you asleep yet? Mu Yaja also got out of the car. When he saw that the light in the study was still on, he was stunned. The two of them looked at each other. In the study, Yun Tianyu sat in front of the computer with a frown and a serious expression. His fingers flew across the keyboard from time to time as he typed a series of instructions in the program window. On the screen, in the black interface, lines of code instructions were constantly being refreshed. Chapter 659. He stared at the screen expressionlessly. He was so engrossed that he did not hear the sound of the study room's door opening despite his usually sharp senses. There was a suffocating atmosphere in the study room. Yu stared intently at the screen as she browsed through the data on it. Her pinkish but tense face was filled with killing intent, and her eyes were as cold as ice. However, after a short while, the data on the screen suddenly turned red. Yu's pinkish lips pursed slightly. As if victory was already in her grasp, her fingers danced on the keyboard as she typed continuously. Tap, 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 tap. The tapping sound of the mechanical keyboard did not seem to stop. Other than that, there was only dead silence. He held his breath as his eyes shone like torches. A hint of mockery flashed across his eyes. Shortly after, the data seemed to have collapsed and turned into a garbled mess. Shortly after, the screen flashed with the image of the Pentagon's home defense system collapsing. The Hurricane Group's logo appeared on the home page. The boy's tense expression faded as an elegant smile appeared on his face. Humph, trying to fight with me? You're overestimating yourself. He closed the interface and pushed the keyboard away. He slowly picked up the cup of Ceylon black tea beside him and elegantly took a sip. At the bottom right corner of the window, Lee Hanlon's video conference window kept flashing. He clicked on it, and the computer screen switched to a video. Lee Hanlon's figure was exposed before the camera, and his face was filled with amazement. Oh, my God. Yu, do you have to be so fierce? The Pentagon's defense system is broken just like that. He was already dumbfounded when he witnessed the collapse of the Pentagon's heavy defense net. This child's ability was beyond his expectations. The Pentagon's defense system was very strict. However, in the hands of this boy, the system was completely destroyed in just a few minutes. Did he have to be so fierce? Did he have to be so heaven-defying? How could this child have such terrifying lethality? Lee Hanlon was so shocked that he could not speak. Heh. Yun Tianyu sneered, his eyes filled with disdain and contempt. To me, the Pentagon's so-called defense system exists in name only. How dare they confiscate his cargo ship? Since when did the Pentagon dare to hack into his system? Mobilizing the port to block his route and detain his cargo ships. This was undoubtedly an act of twisting a tiger's whiskers. In the history of the American government, presidents would always do a few stupid things when they were in power. These newly appointed government officials actually dared to provoke him? Good, very good. Since they didn't know the rules, he didn't mind teaching them a lesson. This transaction was extremely important to him. Although the North American market was not under his jurisdiction, this sea route was under his control. How dare they block his path? Courting death. Since they dared to do such a thing, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. Now that he had breached the defensive net, the Pentagon had suffered a great loss. It would probably take some time for them to recover. When Lee Hanlon heard his arrogant tone, he was even more impressed. He even began to wonder if this child had a genetic mutation. Comparing oneself to others was indeed infuriating. He couldn't even type the Wubi input method smoothly. However, this child was already able to break through the Pentagon's defense net in a short period of time. Chapter 660. Yun Tianyu tapped his fingertips on the table. Just as he was deep in thought, he suddenly felt that something was amiss. On the screen, Lee Hanlon suddenly stopped talking. His eyes were fixed on something behind him. Yun Tianyu was a little creeped out by his gaze. Where are you looking? Mommy. Lee Hanlon opened his mouth in a daze. Mommy? Feeling suspicious, Yun Tianyu followed his line of sight. Behind him, Yun Shishir stood rooted to the ground with a look of bewilderment. Mu Yaja, who was standing beside her, had an unfathomable look on his face. Mommy. Yu was instantly scared out of his wits by the ghostly appearance of the two people. His heart almost stopped beating at that moment. He stood up straight from the leather chair in shock and subconsciously reached out to turn off the computer screen. His guilty conscience action made the expression on Yun Shishir's face even weirder. Seeing this, Muyaja's smile gradually deepened. He was scared witless by Yun Shusher's doubtful gaze. Mommy, why did she come back at this time? Did she not say that she would be staying with the production team for a period of time and could not return home? He counted the days. She should be back the day after tomorrow at the earliest. Why was she now? Also, when did the two of them enter his study room? Like ghosts, they appeared behind him without a sound and did not say a word. Yu Yu patted his chest. He was scared to death. Did they have to be so scary? It was scary enough to scare someone to death, all right? He did not know when they came in and how much of his words they had heard. Yu Yu glanced at Muyaja again and felt even more bewildered. Why was he here, too? Mommy, why are you back at this time? Yu Yu changed from her kingly aura to that of an adorable little fairy. She reached out and tugged at Yun Shusher's sleeve. Her tone was coquettish. Yun Shusher stared at the changes in his expression. Suddenly, she asked in confusion, Darling, what were you doing just now? Yu Yu looked nervous and played dumb. I didn't do anything. He glanced at Muyaja warily. However, he had an, I know what you're doing, expression on his face. His heart trembled. Mommy didn't know much about things on a deeper level, so she naturally couldn't understand what he was doing just now. But Muyaja was different. Even if he didn't understand, he should at least understand some of what he said. Little Munchkin was a little worried. The situation just now was so intense that he could not spare any energy to pay attention to the things around him. Therefore, he did not notice when they opened the door and entered the study. She didn't even notice the sound of footsteps. Really? Yun Shusher saw that he looked extremely guilty and was a little suspicious. But I think I heard you say something about courting death? Yu Yu was her gentle little god, her adorable little angel. How could he possibly say such cruel words? Yu Yu's brain suddenly stopped working. After thinking carefully, he immediately explained, No. Mommy, don't think too much. Yu Yu was playing a game. What game? Red alert. Yu Yu explained, it's a strategy game. Then why did you say the Pentagon? This is how the game is played. You can win if you occupy the Pentagon. Yu Yu explained with a face full of cold sweat. She kept looking at Muyaja's expression. Chapter 661. The man's light gaze landed on him. Obviously, he understood what he was doing just now. This son of his was more impressive than he had imagined. He could actually break through the Pentagon's security system effortlessly. The student had surpassed the master. The father and son exchanged a look, each keeping a secret from the other. Yun Shusher was skeptical. Really? It's true. Mommy, Yu Yu was really playing a game. Yun Tianyu pursed his lips aggrievedly. His innocent and naive eyes were like those of a Bambi fawn as he launched a gentle attack on her. Yun Shusher was finally defeated, but she could not help reprimanding him. You should pay attention to the time when playing a game. It's already so late, didn't I tell you to go to bed on time every day? Mommy isn't home, so why are you fooling around? Yu Yu heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. It seemed that his mommy believed him. Immediately, a pitiful expression appeared on his face. I'm sorry, Mommy, I was wrong. I didn't do it on purpose, it's just that this round took longer than usual. Yu Yu won't do it again. There won't be a next time. Yun Shusher reprimanded him. Yu Yu immediately nodded his head and pleaded, Mommy, Yu Yu is really hungry. Mommy will cook some noodles for Yu Yu, okay? With that, he pitifully tugged at the corner of her clothes and acted coquettishly. I really don't know what to do with you. Yun Shusher's heart softened. I'll cook some noodles for you. Quickly tidy up the study room and go to bed after eating. Okay. Yun Tianyu immediately cheered and clapped his hands in joy. Yun Shusher helplessly reached out to pat his head and left the study room to cook noodles. The father and son were left standing in the study room, facing each other. The gentleness and cuteness on Yun Tianyu's face instantly faded as he looked coldly at Muyaja. With an unfriendly look, he questioned, Muyaja, why are you here? Muyaja looked down at him and couldn't help but say, ungrateful brat. Yun Tianyu frowned, not understanding what he was talking about. Muyaja smiled wickedly and squatted down to look him in the eye. When you lied to your mommy just now, I was kind enough not to expose you. Is this how you treat me the moment your mommy left? Humph. I'm not lying. I'm just playing a game. Little Munchkin shrugged innocently. Breaching the Pentagon's security program was indeed like a simple and low-level game to him. It was not even challenging at all. He wasn't lying, and he never lied to his mommy. He was a good boy. Yun Tianyu had a clear conscience. Yes. I'm playing a game. He nodded earnestly. It was just that this game was beyond the average adult hacker's capability. Breaching the Pentagon in minutes, I'm really impressed by you. Muyaja squinted at him. You play with firearms? Yun Tianyu's face darkened. This man was more capable than he had imagined, he could actually understand it. Are you in charge of North America and East Asia's air routes? Yun Tianyu was completely speechless. His daddy was not someone to be trifled with either. Muyaja sighed helplessly. Your mommy is stupid and can't understand these things, but I can. My mommy isn't stupid. Yun Tianyu glared at him and retorted with a snort, You're not allowed to speak ill of my mommy. Okay. Chapter 662. Then, why don't you call me Daddy? Muyaja looked at him, his lips curling into a playful smile. Yun Tianyu's gaze changed and his face turned cold. You want me to call you Daddy? Yu Yu's eyes were full of contempt and disdain. You want me to call you Daddy? Dream on. Yu Yu proudly crossed his arms and raised his head with a pout. His eyes were full of childishness. This man was dreaming. He wanted him to call him Daddy. This person was not even married yet, so how could he change it? Was that even possible? Muyaja cocked a brow and nodded. Stubborn fellow. Are you really not going to call me that? Dream on. These 3 words were a merciless rebuke. Yun Tianyu did not give him any face and coldly tugged at the corner of his lips. Muyaja shook his head helplessly, looking troubled. Then. I can only report your situation to your mommy. Situation? What situation? Yun Tianyu squinted his eyes warily and sized him up. His brows furrowed in confusion. What do you mean by that? Muyaja patiently guided him. Little thing, guess what will happen if your mommy finds out that you're the boss of Liji Holdings? Yun Tianyu's good-looking brows furrowed slightly as he thought about it seriously. Suddenly, he realized something and coldly glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. He snorted and questioned, Are you threatening me? Yes. Muyaja calmly nodded and admitted it. The corner of Yun Tianyu's eyes twitched violently as he mocked, Muyaja, can you be any more shameless? A certain man nodded seriously and shamelessly. Yes, I dare. Do you want to try? Yun Tianyu was stunned. This man was really shameless. He was more shameless than he thought. Yu Yu did not take his threat seriously and only sneered. Muyaja, do you think you can threaten me with this? Regarding my identity, I'll come clean with my mommy sooner or later. It's just a matter of time, you can't threaten me. Oh. Is that so? Muyaja glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and dragged out his last word. Hearing this, the little lad looked up and saw a flash of cunning in the man's eyes. His heart shuddered involuntarily. He actually felt a little guilty because of the smile in his eyes. Muyaja's eyes and his handsome face slowly inched closer to the little lad's eyes. With a sinister smile, his thin lips suddenly spouted these words, You, guess. If your mommy. If you know, what if she knows that you dabble in firearms, hacking, smuggling, and oil? Every word made Yun Tianyu shudder with fear and trepidation. Her watery eyes couldn't help but widen as she stared at him in disbelief. The sinister and playful smile on Muyaja's face was glaring in his eyes at this moment. Yu Yu was completely speechless. This man, how much dirt did he have on him? How did he find out? Yu Yu eyed him suspiciously. He was wary and suspicious. He clearly hid his identity very well. How did this man find out about his identity? You want to ask me how I found out? Mu Yaja seemed to have seen through his thoughts. Yun Tianyu pursed his lips tightly and did not say a word. Mu Yaja reached out and pinched his chubby cheeks with interest. Then, with a deep smile, he deliberately provoked him. I'm not telling you. Yun Tianyu ground his teeth. Chapter 663. What a pervert. Yun Tianyu was infuriated by his repulsive look, but he could do nothing about it. Mu Yaja rubbed his chin and asked curiously, when did you start playing with firearms? Is there a need for me to tell you? It should be last May when you officially joined Hurricane Group, right? Mu Yaja blinked. Yun Tianyu was stunned again. This man was truly a pervert. He clearly knew everything, yet he still asked him. I just want to see if you're honest with Daddy. Mu Yaja saw through his thoughts again and explained. Yun Tianyu's face was stiff and distorted. Did he have the ability to read minds or what? Could he tell what he was thinking with just one look? Yun Tianyu stared at his eyes suspiciously, trying to find some strange secret on his face. Mu Yaja lazily said, stop looking, I don't know how to read minds. Yu Yu's lips twitched. F***ck. No, I can't get angry, and I can't swear. If Mommy comes in and sees me freaking out, I'll be done for. Be a gentleman. Be elegant. Be a gentleman. Be elegant. Yu Yu repeatedly reminded himself. Finally, he calmed down and smiled elegantly. Mu Yaja, you know a lot. Yes. I also know that you're the head of East Asia's firearms market. Yun Tianyu involuntarily took a step back to maintain a safe distance from him. He originally thought that Mu Yaja did not know his identity. Only now did he realize that he had underestimated this man. Black-bellied, the ultimate black-bellied. Poor Yu Yu. If this man was really as simple as he thought, then who did he inherit his black-bellied genes from? His son was not simple, so his father was naturally not a simple character either. Mu Yaja saw his guarded expression and smiled. I also know that you're the designer of Hurricane Group's arsenal. Liji Holdings' machine research technology can be used to manufacture missiles. Yun Tianyu could no longer hold it in. Where did you find out about this? Yes, I've been to your study room. Mu Yaja smiled evilly. There are a lot of design drawings on your computer. In addition, there's also the research technology for quantum computers. Yun Tianyu's face drained of color. You've cracked my computer? Yes, Mu Yaja gave a concise answer. That day, before flying to England and before Yun Shusher returned home, he browsed through Yun Tianyu's study room. There were many design drawings hidden under the desk. Initially, he had thought that these drawings were for Liji Holdings' machines and technologies. However, upon closer inspection, he was shocked to discover that these technologies could also be used in the field of missiles. Turning on the computer, he broke through the 3 layers of defense that little Munchkin had set up. However, he couldn't break through the 4th layer no matter what he tried. He guessed that this system probably had 9 layers of protection, but with his ability, he could only break through 3 layers at most. But there was one thing he wouldn't say out loud. Otherwise, it will be embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing that I can't crack the defense system set by my son. Yun Tianyu looked at him deeply and thought that he had cracked his 9 layers of defense. He could not help but look at the man in front of him in a new light. You actually went through my confidential files. Chapter 664. What else do you know? Yun Tianyu's eyes were filled with wariness. Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows wickedly. Isn't this enough? Arms smuggling and oil monopoly. This is a crime. I didn't expect my son to be the head of the arms syndicate. It's so scary. Mu Yaja patted his chest as if he were truly frightened. Yin Tianyu was completely speechless. Pretentious. What an actor. He clearly looked very calm, all right? How contemptible. This man was too black-bellied. He was even more black-bellied than he had imagined. Muyaja pondered for a moment before asking, "Say, do you think your mommy will get a heart attack because of you being the head of the arms syndicate at such a young age?" Yin Tianyu smiled disdainfully, his face full of contempt. "Even if you tell her, she'll only believe me and not you. After all, in her eyes, I'm the cutest and most gentlemanly baby. What if I have evidence?" Muyaja suddenly retorted. Yin Tianyu was startled. "What? I'm sure your mommy will be very surprised if I have evidence of your identity." The evil smile on Muyaja's face was glaring. Yin Tianyu gritted his teeth, thinking that this man was really abominable. If he could, he really wanted to tear apart this black-bellied smiling face. Your mommy is like a pure and innocent little rabbit. If she knows that her son is the head of the arms syndicate, won't she be frightened? Yin Tianyu pressed, "How much do you know?" Muyaja looked up at the sky. He put on an innocent look as if he knew nothing. However, Yin Tianyu knew that this man probably knew everything about him. No matter how unwilling he was, he had to compromise. With a frown and pursed lips, he asked, "What's the condition of confidentiality?" "Let me hear you call me Daddy." Muyaja raised his arrogant chin. The topic was back to square one again. Yin Tianyu's face flushed red. It was so hot that it almost emitted smoke. How embarrassing. If he did not call him that, he was really afraid that this man would tell his mommy about his identity. If mommy knew that he was playing with firearms and oil, wouldn't she be so scared that she would have a heart attack, as he said? She might even destroy him. He dared not imagine what kind of scary situation that would be. He originally intended to keep this matter a secret. He thought that Muyaja would not be able to find out his identity. He did not expect that he had underestimated this man. Yin Tianyu gritted his teeth and gave him a sidelong glance before turning around. With his back facing his father, he held the corner of the table for support and practically squeezed out 2 words through gritted teeth. "Dad, D." She was gnashing her teeth in humiliation. His voice was as soft as a mosquito, almost inaudible. Shouting these 2 words was already the limit for him. Muyaja, however, did not appreciate her kindness and replied in a harsh tone, "I didn't hear you." Yin Tianyu angrily turned around and accused, "You clearly heard it." "I didn't hear it." "Really?" "I swear." Muyaja raised his palm in a serious manner. Yin Tianyu gritted his teeth in anger. "Muyaja, do you believe that I'll blow up your Mu Group's headquarters?" Muyaja said, "Son, you're so cruel. I'm going to tell your mommy. You only know how to complain." Yin Tianyu exploded in anger. "What can you do to me?" Muyaja looked at his little face, which was red from anger. It was tender, and adorable. He could not help but pinch it. Chapter 665. Call me Daddy. "Daddy, your voice is a little soft." Yu clenched his fists and decided to bear with it. "Daddy. Can't you be gentler?" "Daddy." When Yin Shishir finished cooking the noodles and entered the study room, she saw this scene. She saw Yin Tianyu standing in front of Muyaja with downcast eyes and calling out softly, "Daddy, Daddy." Each call was softer than the last. Each call was cuter than the last. Muyaja's ears were very pleasing to the ear. Yin Shishir could not help but be stunned. Since when did this father-son pair have such a good relationship? She cleared her throat and coughed a few times. Yin Tianyu glanced at her from the corner of his eye and saw her standing at the door. He immediately stood up straight with an innocent and adorable smile on his face. "Mommy." Yin Shishir helplessly hugged her arms. "What are you guys doing?" Yin Tianyu's face inexplicably turned red when he heard this. Muyaja, however, answered blandly, "We're exchanging feelings." Yin Shishir, Yin Tianyu, how shameless. "Who's exchanging feelings with you?" "You're the one who's sticking to me." I'm not exchanging feelings with you. Who has feelings for you? Yin Tianyu felt extremely humiliated. I'll never play with this man again. He angrily stomped his feet and then looked at Yun Shusher with an extremely resentful and aggrieved expression. His big, watery eyes were glistening with tears. He looked as if he was about to cry. Yun Shusher, however, was completely in a daze. She did not understand that this child, who had always rejected Muyaja, was now calling him daddy, with each call sweeter than the last. Did I see a ghost? Or, Yun Shusher suddenly glared suspiciously at Muyaja. Did you bully my baby? Her eyes were as sharp as a gun. Muyaja immediately raised his hands innocently and stood up. He pursed his lips and explained, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. Both father and son looked at him pitifully and innocently. Yun Shusher was stunned. He actually had a misconception. The father and son in front of him looked more innocent than the other. They were like two dogs wagging their tails and begging for mercy. They were quite cute. Although this analogy was not very kind. But, it was indeed very similar. Yun Shusher suddenly couldn't help but laugh out loud. Seeing her suddenly smile, Yun Tianyu felt even more aggrieved. His expression crumbled as he softly whined, Mommy, all right, the noodles are ready. After saying that, Yun Shusher turned around and entered the restaurant. Yun Tianyu turned his head to glare fiercely at his father. Muyaja lowered his eyes to look at him with a sinister smile. Are you satisfied? Muyaja? What did you call me? Muyaja knitted his brows in displeasure. Call me daddy. Be good. I've already called you daddy. Yun Tianyu felt that it was necessary to remind him not to push his luck. Muyaja could not help laughing when he saw his awkward look. The little guy was good in every way. He was just especially arrogant and awkward. Asking him to call him daddy was akin to forcing him to swallow a gun. Was it that difficult? You did call me daddy earlier, but my condition is that you call me daddy forever. Forever? Yun Tianyu was shocked. He clenched his fists so tightly that smoke was about to rise from the top of his head. Muyaja, isn't your request too much? How is it too much? I'm your daddy, you're my son. Chapter 666. Hearing this, Muyaja's eyes turned into crescents. He squatted down slightly and held his shoulders. He quietly looked at the little lad at eye level. There was no need to hide the affection in his eyes. His thin lips parted slightly as a few words escaped his lips. Is it too late now? His tone and expression were serious. Yun Tianyu was slightly taken aback and stunned. Is it too late for me to dote on you, pamper you, and love you now? Muyaja could not help holding his little hand and gently massaging the back of it with his fingers. The little lad's hand was soft and fleshy. It was the softness of a 7-year-old child. His skin was as white as snow, and the blood vessels under his skin were clearly visible. His fingertips were adorably pinkish. It was hard to imagine that this pair of hands had created so many incredible legends. It was this pair of hands that had destroyed the Pentagon's defense system just a few minutes ago. His son was a genius. Even though he was only 7 years old, his achievements had attracted the attention of the world. It was as if a powerful soul was hidden in his small body. Incredible. This was his son. He should be proud of him. He should be extremely gratified to have such an outstanding and talented son. However, now, as he held his tender little hand, Muyaja felt a sourness spreading in his heart. His heart ached. His heart really ached for this child. No matter how outstanding his achievements were, there was no doubt that he was only a 7-year-old child. He did not even know how to imagine what kind of childhood he had. While investigating his background and identity, he also received a thick stack of medical reports. According to the reports, the child had spent most of his time in the hospital before he was 3 years old. Congenital heart insufficiency, asthma, past respiratory syndrome. Muyaja squeezed his little hand, the heartache in his eyes overflowing. Yun Tianyu was stunned for a moment before he slowly withdrew his little hand from his father's. It's probably too late, right? His brows furrowed slightly as he pursed his lips. I'm already used to it. He was strong enough now. He was strong enough to protect his mommy. The wealth and power he possessed were more than enough to protect this family. Other than mommy, nothing else matters to me. With that, he slowly turned around, took a deep breath, and left the study room. Muyaja's lips curled into a smile as he stared at the man's back. He could tell that the child yearned for his embrace so much. That day in the hospital, when she hugged him, her small hands carefully wrapped around his waist and nestled in his embrace. Although it was only for a moment, she was as obedient as a kitten that had retracted its claws. It was just that he was stubborn. After all, 7 years of estrangement was neither deep nor shallow, but there was still a chasm between them. It seemed that it would not be easy to walk into his heart and make him accept him as his father. Yun Tianyu was holding a bowl of noodles in satisfaction when she entered the dining room. The moment she saw him, her gaze instantly changed, and her expression became somewhat complicated. Yun Shishir asked, Yu, how's mommy's cooking? Great. Yu clapped his hands and was not stingy with his praise. The noodles were not burnt, the noodles were not half-cooked, and the taste was not salty or bland. Her cooking had improved. Chapter 667. As long as he did not get food poisoning after eating it, he would like anything his mommy made personally. He would not reject anything. Yun Shishir also prepared Muyaja's portion. The man sat at the table and took a bite, too. His brows furrowed. This time, her culinary skills did not amaze him as much as the previous time. Moreover, there was a little too much salt, so his throat was a little sore. It was not up to standard. What he did not know was that the noodles Yun Shishir made the last time he tasted it was the best she had ever made. Yun Shishir noticed his frown and asked anxiously, what's wrong? It doesn't taste good. Muyaja put down his chopsticks and opened his mouth. Just as he was about to give his review, he was acutely aware of a warning gaze on him. He followed his line of sight and saw Yun Tianyu clenching his chopsticks tightly. His piercing gaze seemed to be warning him that he would only accept 5-star reviews and not negative ones. If you can do it, then do it. If you can't, then don't talk nonsense. It was as if he were to give a negative review of this bowl of noodles, the little lad would blow up the Mu Group's headquarters in a fit of rage the next second. He was simply a mommy protector. Under Yun Tianyu's icy gaze, Muyaja cleared his throat and praised against his will, yes, it tastes good. Only then was Yun Tianyu satisfied. Yun Shishir raised her brow in surprise. Really? It's really delicious. Yun Tianyu said, my mommy is a 5-star chef. Muyaja's lips twitched. This flattery was not exaggerated at all. If such a standard was a 5-star chef standard, then all the hotels under the Mu Group should close down. Seeing his strange expression, Yun Tianyu's icy gaze pierced him like a ray. It was as if he was asking, why? Are you not convinced? Convinced. Muyaja hardened his heart, gritted his teeth, and forced himself to finish the noodles. Yun Tianyu, on the other hand, was quietly lowering his eyelashes. Be it his posture or his movements, they were incomparably elegant. He was a living example of an aristocratic little gentleman. It was as if he were not eating a bowl of home-cooked noodles but was in a high-class Western restaurant. He had a natural aristocratic temperament. Just a bowl of noodles was enough to show that he was an aristocrat. He was not an ordinary person. When Yun Shishir saw that Muyaja had finished all the noodles, she was delighted. Doesn't it taste great? Very good. Muyaja praised against his will. As he spoke, he took the handkerchief and carefully wiped the corners of his lips. In our family, Yuyu's cooking is the best. If there's a chance next time, you should try it. Yuyu immediately said cutely, Yuyu only cooks for mommy. With that, he gave Muyaja a disdainful look. It was as if to say, give up. He only cooks for mommy and won't cook for you. This lad, he was too biased. Mu Yaja's eyes expressed his protest. Yun Tianyo's eyes expressed his protest. He refused to admit, accept, or carry it out. His protest was invalid. The two of them, one eyebrow and one eye, faced each other in the air. They did not speak and only communicated with their eyes. Yun Shishir watched them exchange flirtatious glances and was a little confused. However, she couldn't understand why the two of them were exchanging glances with each other. This was probably a special tacit understanding between father and son. After this incident, Yun Tianyu realized with regret that he seemed to have suffered a huge loss. He was actually led by the nose by this man. Chapter 668. Minyu walked up to him nervously and reported, "Chairman Mu, the company's internal network seems to have been attacked by a hacker." "It's paralyzed." Paralyzed? Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows and asked suspiciously, "How could the internal network be paralyzed? Did the technical department deal with it? This hacker seems to be very powerful." The technical department is currently racking their brains trying to figure out how to fix the loophole. Loophole? He walked into the office and turned on his computer. His computer was the mainframe that connected to the company's network. Even if the hacker was very powerful, this computer should not have fallen. However, in the next second, he was slapped in the face by reality. On the screen, a program window suddenly popped up and an explosive dance song suddenly rang throughout the office. Uptown Funk. On the screen, along with the music, countless chicks were twisting their butts and dancing on the screen. A few words slowly floated above their heads. Idiot. 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 Then, there was a mocking voice. Ha ha ha, Mu Yaja's face instantly turned pale. He leaned back slightly and rubbed his smooth chin. There was no need to think about who was the mastermind behind all this. On the screen, a few chicks with arrogant expressions were still waving their handkerchiefs and dancing. Idiot. 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 Yun Shishir received a call from Lin Fengtian. At first, when she saw Lin Fengtian's call on the screen, she could not help but feel guilty. Last time, because of Mu Yaja, the crew had damaged a few pieces of equipment. It must have been a great blow to their vitality. She did not know if Director Lin would blame her. After all, this happened because of her. She really felt guilty. With an uneasy feeling, Yun Shishir picked up the phone. Lin Fengtian's excited and emotional voice came from the other end of the phone. "Shishir, you are my goddess." Yun Shishir was confused. "What do you mean, Director Lin? I don't quite understand." "You don't know?" While Lin Fengtian felt strange, he quickly recounted what had happened in the past few days. It turned out that after Mu Yaja lost his temper, he ordered the crew of The Green Apple to stop filming. The videotapes were also confiscated. The production crew had damaged several sets of equipment, and the film inside had not been exported in time. Lin Fengtian was extremely depressed. Forget about the few damaged equipment, but they were all shots of the campus. It wouldn't be a big deal if they didn't take any more shots when the time came. But the thing that made him depressed was that the scene in the music room that day was simply impeccable. It was exciting. If he could keep this scene, even if he took a few more punches, it would not be a pity. Now that the production team had been banned and the videos had been confiscated, Lin Fengtian had no place to cry. However, the previous night, Mu Yaja had given him an order to contact the film crew and told him that filming could resume as usual. As for the damaged equipment, Huanyu Corporation gave him a few new sets of cameras. Not only that, the videotape of the scene in the music room was also returned to him. Everything seemed to be back on track. Then, what about Yun Shishir? Ever since he found out that Yun Shishir was Mu Yaja's woman, his impression of Yun Shishir had changed. Mu Yaja, the crown prince of Dishing Financial Group and the future head of the Mu family, was extremely powerful. Chapter 669. With Mu Yaja as her backer, she had everything, resources, and status. With the name Mu Yaja, no matter how influential she would only be a foil. However, Yun Shishir did not do that. She was a newbie in the production team. She could have used Muyaja's resources, but she did not make it public. She gave the production team a satisfactory answer with her own hard work, diligence, and capability. She was a dark horse among the newbies. Lin Fengtian was even more certain about her. However, after this incident, would Yun Shishir be able to join the production team again? Lin Fengtian was more concerned about this issue, so he carefully asked for Muyaja's opinion. The latter warned him coldly, "I have a piece of advice for you. I'm letting my woman join your show. You should have some foresight." Kissing scenes were still not allowed. At most, they were allowed to borrow the position. Bed scenes were out of the question. Holding hands and hugging, even if it was necessary for filming, there was a limit to it. This was considered a loosening of the rules. To Lin Fengtian, this was a great gift. Lin Fengtian excitedly said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Muyaja asked, "I don't want to see what happened that day a second time." Lin Fengtian immediately explained, "Chairman Mu, you've misunderstood. This is filming, it's work. Everything is necessary for the plot." Necessary for the plot? Muyaja's voice deepened. Lin Fengtian, I think you've wasted your time as a director. Can't you tell whether Gu Xingze is acting or revealing his true feelings? After he finished speaking, he coldly hung up the phone. Lin Fengtian held the phone. His mind went blank for a long time before he sighed in a daze. He could also tell that Gu Xingze's reaction that day did not seem to be acting. He was a director, especially when it came to portraying pure love between a man and a woman. He had seen many top-notch actors. Gu Xingze's superb acting skills were beyond doubt. But no matter how superb her acting skills were, acting was still acting. Any professional filmmaker would be able to tell at a glance whether an actor was acting or revealing his true feelings. Lin Fengtian could tell that Gu Xingze was not acting. He was revealing his true feelings. His true feelings for Yun Shishir. Muyaja also saw it, which was why he lost control that day. Lin Fengtian rushed to the set. Gu Xingze was rushing to film an advertisement. During the break, he mentioned this matter to Gu Xingze. Gu Xingze's expression changed when he heard this. "Director Lin, you worry too much. I have no other feelings for Yun Shishir." "Really?" Lin Fengtian was shocked. "I knew it. You're famous for being cold and aloof in the circle. If you said you liked men, I would have believed you. I really don't believe that you like Yun Shishir." In a sense, Lin Fengtian was a real thick-skinned person. He took his words seriously. Gu Xingze's eyelids drooped slightly as he concealed the desolation that flashed across his eyes. Lin Fengtian couldn't help but praise him. "However, you really scared me that day. Xingze, your acting skills have improved so much compared to when you first entered the film industry. Even I was shocked by your acting skills during that scene in the music room. I couldn't help but get into character. Your eyes, the look in them, the emotional tension was too strong. If I didn't know your acting skills, would have thought that you had feelings for Yun Shishir." Chapter 670. The production team returned to normal. Lin Fengtian said that if it were not for her sake, the production team might have been disbanded. Yun Shishir was stunned when she heard this. "Shishir, no matter what, the production team is back to normal. When can you be there?" "Tomorrow." Yun Shishir smiled brightly. The next day, she was ready to go to the production team. The main cast and crew were back in their positions. However, when Yun Shishir joined the set, everyone's gaze on her became a little strange. Yan Bingqing and Yang Chang's eyes were filled with jealousy as they looked at her. Jealousy? Yun Shishir was confused by these pairs of eyes and had no idea what was going on. She also rushed to the production team in the afternoon. When she saw Yun Shishir, her expression was a little strange. Yun Shishir could not help it. "What's wrong with you guys? Why are you all staring at me with such strange eyes?" She said embarrassedly, "Shishir, sorry, you misunderstood me. I didn't expect you to come to the production team for filming. I'm surprised." "Why do you think so?" Cough. It's because you're now the unspeakable goddess in the production team. Everyone wanted to worship her like a goddess. Yun Shusher did not understand what she meant. What unspeakable goddess? What was all this about? Why was she so confused? She found it funny. Shusher, you can do whatever you want in the production team now. Who dares to offend you? Under Yun Shusher's puzzled gaze, She recounted everything to her. It turned out that before she came, Lin Fengtian had gathered everyone for a secret meeting. The topic of the meeting was mostly related to the reorganization of the production team, and one point was mentioned. Previously, in the production team, he noticed that many stage and stage managers, as well as many A-list assistants, were more or less finding trouble for Yun Shusher. Yan Bingqing, in particular, used her status to bully newbies, assistants, and even extras. All of them had to give her face. Mu Shi, in particular, was ostracized by her. Yan Bingqing's incident was heavily criticized. Although he didn't mention her name, he gave her enough face. However, when Lin Fengtian mentioned this, the crew members all guessed who this person was. He was well aware of this. Yan Bingqing loved to ostracize newcomers and bully young actresses. In order to gain the most exposure, it could be said that she would do anything. Yan Bingqing, who was sitting in her seat, had an extremely ugly expression on her face. His face turned green. Lin Fengtian reminded them again. Although Yun Shusher was a newcomer, she was his exclusive newcomer. Whoever dared to make trouble for Yun Shusher would be slapping him in the face. Lin Fengtian had the highest status in the crew. Who dared to offend him? He was the famous Yama Scissorhands. Once, an important female lead in his movie tried to play the big shot with him, but he cut that role into a supporting role in a matter of minutes. No one dared to go against him. After all, he had Huan Yu's higher-ups behind him. After this meeting, everyone was in awe of Yun Shusher and no longer dared to bully her like they did in the past. They were much more polite. As her assistant, Shi also benefited from this. In the past, she was the most ostracized in the production team. Now, no one dared to ostracize her. When Yun Shusher heard this, her face remained calm, but she was secretly criticizing in her heart. Could all of this have been secretly instructed by Mu Yaja? Chapter 671. A lot of scenes were lost, so Lin Fengtian hurriedly took care of reshooting. On this day, the editor was busy arranging the footage. Yan Bingqing happened to pass by and walked in. She stood behind him without any change in her expression as she watched him arrange the footage. At the same time, she also wanted to see how she would perform in front of the camera. She was quite confident in her performance. However, it didn't matter if she didn't watch. When she saw that her scenes were much less, Yan Bingqing was stunned. Many scenes of her and many of the supporting roles had been cut out during the editing process. Logically speaking, although she wasn't the main lead, she was still an extremely important character in this drama. Her scenes weren't any less than Yun Shusher's. However, in these scenes that the editor had arranged, her scenes had been reduced by several times. There were many scenes where she and Yun Shusher acted together, but all the scenes were given to Yun Shusher. There were very few scenes that were given to her. There were many important plot segments, but her camera flashed past them with just a few strokes of the pen. It was clearly a very important scene, but all the scenes were given to Yun Shusher. She estimated in her heart that Yun Shusher's scenes actually occupied a total of 70% of the scenes. The more Yan Bingqing watched, the angrier she became. The anger in her heart was almost twisted. She had nowhere to vent her anger. Yan Bingqing clenched her fists tightly. Her sharp nails dug into her palms and pierced her skin. She bit her lip hard, turned around, and left. Not long after she left, Yan Bingqing hurriedly sent a junior assistant to inquire about it. The editor was almost done with his work. The junior assistant brought over some ice water to relieve the heat. She didn't report her background but casually led him to this topic. "Sir, have you finished editing all these scenes?" The editor was grateful for her thoughtfulness. Now that his work had come to an end, he had the leisure to chat with her. "It's not done yet. It's just that the scenes that were selected will be re-edited later. I just took a rough look and realized that Yun Shishir has a lot of scenes. Oh. Director Lin picked all of these, the editor said ambiguously. The assistant had been working for Yan Bingqing for many years, so he was smart. After chatting for a while and completely dispelling Yan Bingqing's vigilance, he suddenly cut to the topic. There are several scenes with Yan Bingqing and Yun Shishir. Why is Director Lin only focusing on Yun Shishir's scenes and throwing away Yan Bingqing's scenes? The editor wasn't wary of the probing in her words. Instead, he said bluntly, I was there when Director Lin chose these shots. I watched him choose them. Oh. Is there gossip? I say, why are you so nosy? Don't ask about anything in the production team. The editor lit a cigarette and narrowed his eyes. The junior assistant was quite pretty. She acted coquettishly in front of him. The editor couldn't resist and said bluntly, Director Lin said that Yan Bingqing looks too old in some of the scenes. Moreover, she acted as a rebellious high school student like a white lotus. Oh, I see. The junior assistant listened and noted it down in her heart. Moreover, you didn't see those scenes with Yan Bingqing. I can't stand it. Chapter 672. But Yan Bingqing is a big shot after all. She's probably a big shot in a scandal. The editor put out his cigarette and couldn't help but tease, she was packaged by the public relations team behind her. Hyping up the topic and snatching exposure, there was really nothing to say about those methods. That face of hers was truly stunning. But she doesn't have any acting skills. Plus, she doesn't have the talent to be an actress and likes to change the script on her own. If it weren't for the fact that Yan Bingqing has a strong backing and landed in the cast, Director Lin wouldn't have picked her for the role. What about Yun Shishir? When the junior assistant heard this, she felt indignant for her boss. She wanted to use Yun Shishir as a comparison. When the editor heard this, he winked at her and said, You don't know, Yun Shishir is now a goddess in the production team. You can't talk about her. Why can't I talk about her? Does she really think she's a big shot? She's just a newcomer. Why can't I talk about her? The junior assistant sneered unhappily. You don't understand this. Yun Shishir probably has some background. I've been with Director Lin for 9 years and I've never seen Director Lin take so much care of an actress. Look at Gu Xingze. When he first appeared in Director Lin's film, he was also scolded badly by him. Yun Shishir is different. Of course, this newcomer has acting skills and is capable. She's also more photogenic than Yan Bingqing. In Director Lin's eyes, she must be a treasure. Then what do you think of Yan Bingqing's acting skills compared to Yun Shishir's? The editor smiled contemptuously but couldn't be bothered to comment further. He only spat out 3 words and asked her in return, can they be compared? The junior assistant returned to the lounge and told Yan Bingqing everything she had found out. She added some details and told Yan Bingqing. Yan Bingqing was so angry that she flipped the table on the spot. This was too much. What did she mean by a white lotus? What did she mean by a vase with bad acting skills? What did she mean by comparing herself to Yun Shishir? Could they be compared? That was too much. Yan Bingqing was so angry that her face was gloomy and ashen. She couldn't wait to rush in front of Yun Shishir and tear this B***tch into pieces. So as to avoid being an eyesore in front of her all day long. She had just debuted, yet she was already able to star in Lin Fengtian's film. Furthermore, she was the female lead. Was she very proud of that? This was not the only thing she hated the most. What kind of dogsh*t luck did Yun Shishir have? Not only did Lin Fengtian praise her so much, but she even managed to get a gold medal team like Qin Zhou to join her. Over the past 2 days, Yun Shishir's behind-the-scenes footage on Weibo had caused a lot of heated discussions. Yun Shishir's behind-the-scenes photos of her wearing a school uniform once dominated the hot search list. Yun Shishir's performance as Yin Xiaochuan satisfied all fans of the original novel's fantasies. Even the author of the original novel reposted the post. This is the Yin Xiaochuan in my heart, invincible in youth. Qin Zhou even made use of the resources in his hands to release press releases for several days in a row, wantonly promoting Yun Shusher. In the press releases, he praised Yun Shusher and did not forget to trample on her and Yang Mi, using them as a stepping stone. This Qin Zhou's packaging skills were top-notch, and his methods of promoting were top-notch. Even if the public relations team behind Yan Bingqing did not want to be outdone and also released press releases to trample on them, they could not withstand Qin Zhou's overwhelming press releases at all. Why? It was because Qin Zhou had close ties with almost all the major media companies. Back then, he had relied on Gu Xing's golden resources accumulated over the past 10 years. Now, almost all of them were spent on Yun Shusher. He spent a lot of money. Chapter 673. Putting this aside, the main point was that with Qin Zhou's status and backing, who would dare to go against him? Yan Bingqing's team had just released a few articles about Yun Shusher when Qin Zhou ordered his men to replace them. There was no room for negotiation at all. Yan Bingqing, Yang Mi, and the rest were furious, but they did not dare to say anything. Offending Qin Zhou was undoubtedly courting death. Qin Zhou and Gu Xingza had held Huanyu's shares in their early years and had a seat on the company's board of directors. They were also part of the company's upper management. If they offended the company's upper management, they could be banned or frozen in a matter of minutes. Yan Bingqing did not dare to go against Qin Zhou. Hence, she allowed the manager to consume her exposure to boost Yun Shusher's popularity. However, now that even her scenes with Yun Shusher were edited to such a ridiculous state, Yan Bingqing could no longer sit still. She was too aggrieved. She had never been so aggrieved before. This Yun Shusher was so capable. A newbie was being held in such high regard. What capabilities did she have to make Qin Zhou support her so much? However, despite Lin Fengtian's repeated orders, she did not dare to make things difficult for Yun Shusher. The bird that pokes its head out will be shot. Many people were jealous of Yun Shusher, and there might even be someone who would teach her a lesson. However, it was difficult for her to vent her anger. She could not offend Yun Shusher, but she could not vent her anger on her assistant, right? Hence, during lunch, Yan Bingqing accidentally splashed the boiling hot tea in her cup onto Mu Shi. Mu Shi screamed in pain. When she lowered her head, her arm was instantly scalded red by the tea. The sun was scorching hot now. The scorching sun shone on her body and arm, causing her to cry aggrievedly. Mu Shi hugged her scalded arm and bit her lower lip tightly. She glared at her with tears in her eyes, but she did not dare to say anything. Yan Bingqing looked down at her from the corner of her eyes and said with a fake smile, "Oh, I didn't do it on purpose. I'm sorry." After he finished speaking, he didn't look at her anymore. He even said regretfully, "If you hadn't bumped into me, my cup wouldn't have flipped over. My precious tributee is really pitiful." It was a simple sentence without any sense of guilt. It didn't sound like an apology at all. It was as if her scalding was not worth mentioning at all. It was not even comparable to the tea leaves that she had spilled. She felt extremely aggrieved. She didn't even bump into her. She was clearly the one who had poured the boiling hot tea over him. "How dare you slander me like this?" Mu Shi knew very well that this Yan Bingqing was venting her anger on her because her limelight had been stolen by Yun Shusher. This kind of thing was very common in the production team. Moreover, this was not the first time Yan Bingqing vented her anger on her assistant. The strange thing was that she didn't take a detour when she saw Yan Bingqing. Mu Shi's tears kept falling. Yan Bingqing walked to her side and lowered her head with a smile. Her voice was extremely cold. "Go back and tell your boss not to go overboard. Does she really think that she can be unrestrained just because she has Director Lin's support?" Mu Shi raised her head with tears streaming down her face and looked at her in disbelief. Yan Bingqing sneered. The threat in her eyes was even more obvious. "If she wants to steal my limelight, she should weigh her own weight first. Let her remember that I'm Huanyu's real big sister. If she wants to fight with me for status, she should ask herself if she's worthy." Chapter 674. Yan Bingqing returned to the resting room triumphantly. Now that she had vented her anger, she felt refreshed. When she met a stage supervisor, she was in a good mood and greeted him with a smile. One had to know that Yan Bingqing was famous for being cold and aloof in the crew. She relied on the support of a financial backer and was used to calling the wind and calling the rain. Therefore, she could do whatever she wanted on the set. She did not give anyone a good look and was cold and cheerless. She was already in a good mood if she did not roll her eyes at them, let alone greet them with a smile. Hence, the stage supervisor could not help but feel flattered and greeted her with a smile, "Sister Bingqing." Yan Bingqing chatted with him for a while. The stage supervisor had something to do. He wanted to quickly prepare the list of extras for the next scene, so he was in a hurry to leave. Yan Bingqing suddenly called out to him. "Stop right there. I have something to ask you." When the stage supervisor heard that, he was stunned. He turned around and looked at her strangely. He said politely, "Sister Bingqing, what do you want to ask?" "You can ask directly." "Let me ask you. Between me and Yun Shishir, who is prettier?" After saying that, Yan Bingqing flipped her hair, raised her arrogant chin slightly, and cast a sidelong glance at him. That look was too seductive. The stage supervisor was a little mesmerized. Yan Bingqing had a pair of electrifying eyes. She was a natural seductress. However, when he came back to his senses and heard what Yan Bingqing had asked, he was stunned. This question really stumped him. This was the first time he had been put in such a difficult position. If he did not answer this question well, he would offend both sides. There was no perfect answer. If he were to say that Yan Bingqing was prettier than Yun Shishir, right? If his words were to reach Yun Shishir, he would undoubtedly offend Yun Shishir. If he were to say that Yun Shishir was prettier than Yan Bingqing in front of her, he would probably be chased out of the house immediately. If he dared to go against Yan Bingqing, he would definitely lose his job. But the key point was that he didn't dare to offend Yun Shishir. He was also present at the scene in the music room that day. Therefore, he could more or less find out who the man who took Yun Shishir away that night was. A person that even Lin Fengtian was in awe of must be a big shot. After that, he finally managed to find out the identity of that big shot. The president of Dishing Financial Group, Mu Yaja. He was just a small stage supervisor, so naturally, he had never seen such a big shot like Mu Yaja. There was no doubt that Yun Shishir had a close relationship with him. Those who worked in the film set were naturally shrewd people who knew better than to offend others. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive if he had some background. The stage supervisor was momentarily at a loss as to how to answer. His slow response annoyed Yan Bingqing. "Is this question difficult to answer? Or are you saying that Yun Shishir is prettier than me?" "Sister Bingqing, you're making things difficult for me." "Aren't you making things difficult for me?" The stage supervisor stammered. "I like Sister Bingqing the most. She's beautiful and elegant, just like a high and mighty goddess." "Then can't you just answer me directly? Say that I'm prettier than Yun Shishir. Say it." I don't dare." "What's there to be afraid of?" Yan Bingqing sneered. "Yun Shishir is just a newcomer." "Are you afraid of a newcomer?" "Sister Bingqing, it's not a matter of whether I'm afraid or not. I really don't dare to offend Yun Shishir." The stage supervisor decided to tell the truth. "What do you mean?" Chapter 675. In Yan Bingqing's eyes, Yun Shishir was undoubtedly a pushover. If not for Qin Zhou behind her, she would have gotten rid of this thorn in her flesh long ago. The production assistant gritted his teeth and pleaded, "Sister Bingqing, in my heart, you're definitely the most beautiful goddess. Yet, you insist on making a comparison between Sister Bingqing and Yun Shishir. How am I supposed to live in this world?" He wiped away his cold sweat. He had spoken against his conscience. Compared to Yan Bingqing, he liked Yun Shishir more. Disregarding everything else and purely comparing character, Yun Shishir was a very easy celebrity to get along with. Although she was a newbie, there were many newbies who relied on their background to throw their weight around. However, Yun Shusher was not like that. On set, she was modest and gentle, very polite, and very particular about harmony. Even when dealing with a small production assistant, she would treat him with a smile. Unlike Yen Bingqing and Yang Mi, she was a little impatient. It happened to be a hot summer these few days. Seeing that the production assistant and cameraman were exposed to the scorching sun, she ordered a few boxes of ice water from her own pocket and got Mu Shi to hand them out one by one. Everyone had a bottle of ice water to relieve the heat. One had to know that such behavior in the production team was very embarrassing. Most celebrities had the airs of a celebrity. For example, Gu Xingze. Although his character was not bad, he rarely interacted with small characters like them. After all, a celebrity's image had to be maintained. Yun Shusher, on the other hand, did not have the airs of a big shot. Even if he was a small production assistant, she would fight with him. Everyone really liked Yun Shusher. In terms of appearance, he did not like to compare too much. One was seductive, and the other was pure. One was mature, and the other was young. In his eyes, Yun Shusher's beauty had a kind of pure vitality. It was pure and natural and was not pretentious at all. Moreover, with makeup, her facial features could adapt to the challenge of any role. The reason Yan Bingqing's acting path was very narrow was that no matter what she acted in, she always had an overly flirtatious face. She was clearly playing the role of a queen, but she acted as a silly and sweet white lotus. Yun Shusher had a wide range of acting skills. First of all, her facial features could be adapted to any kind of makeup, and it didn't look out of place at all. Lin Fengtian was extremely picky, but he was full of praise for Yun Shusher. Amidst the awkward atmosphere, one of Yan Bingqing's trusted aides, whom she had planted beside Yang Mi, ran over and sent the stage supervisor away. She cautiously asked, "Sister Bingqing, earlier, did you splash tea on Yun Shusher's assistant? How did you know?" Yan Bingqing didn't show the slightest bit of fear on her face. Instead, she smiled calmly and said, "I didn't do it on purpose." "What are you making a fuss about?" "I just heard that the little assistant had blisters on her hands. But Yun Shusher is still filming and hasn't returned yet, so she doesn't know yet." "So what if she knows?" Yan Bingqing didn't think much of it. "Do you think she'll eat me up?" "Sister Bingqing, if you ask me, you'd better hurry and apologize to Mu Shi." "What?" Yan Bingqing widened her eyes and laughed in anger. "You want me to apologize to a little assistant? There's no choice. I'm just reminding you out of goodwill." That person didn't dare to say it out loud and could only remind her carefully. "You weren't there that day, but I was. Yun Shusher is a newbie, and her background is a little unfavorable. Sister Bingqing, you'd better not offend her. In terms of background, how can she be compared to me?" Chapter 676. That person only shook her head and said ambiguously, "It's hard to say." Yan Bingqing quickly asked, "What do you mean by that?" However, this person was unwilling to say more. Yan Bingqing, on the other hand, did not think much of it. No matter how big her background was, could it be bigger than the sky? She had Yang Shouqing backing her up. In the afternoon, Yun Shusher's scenes ended. When she returned to the waiting room, she saw Mu Shi arranging her makeup tools. Her eyes were red. Seeing her return, she immediately forced a smile and said, "Shusher, you're back. What happened to you?" Yun Shusher's mind was extremely sensitive. She could tell at a glance that something was wrong with her face. She walked over and looked at her face up close, only to find that her eyes were unbelievably swollen. She frowned and asked with concern, "Why are you crying?" "No." Mu Shi quickly turned her face away, not wanting her to see it. There were only a few reasons. Yun Shusher was so good to her. Seeing that she was being bullied by Yan Bingqing, she would definitely come to her door to argue. She did not want Yun Shusher to offend Yan Bingqing because of her. There was no need for that, was there? It was just a small injury on her arm. After washing it with cold water, it was much better. It was not a big area, so it would be fine after the blisters subsided. She only wanted to keep the peace. Yun Shusher was slightly displeased when she saw her evasive expression. Moo, what's wrong with you? Why do you look a little weird? Who bullied you? Tell me directly. She hurriedly shook her head. No. Don't think too much. Liar. Look at you, your eyes are swollen. You must have been bullied and cried. Yun Shusher pushed her hair away with heartache, but from the corner of her eye, she saw that her sleeve was tightly covering her arm. It was a hot day. In the past, her sleeves would be rolled up at this time. Now, one of her arms was tightly covered. Yun Shusher feels strange. She grabs Lin Luoran's arm and coincidentally holds the place where Lin Luoran was burned. She shuddered in pain, but she seemed to be holding it in and only let out a muffled groan. He retracted his arm. Yun Shusher's heart skipped a beat. She hurriedly lifted her arm up to take a look, only to see that it was scalded red. Startled, she immediately asked, "What's going on?" "I'm fine. I accidentally scalded myself." "Who did this?" Yun Shusher raised her voice slightly. She's body trembled. Seeing that she was angry, she had no choice but to confess everything that had happened earlier. Yun Shusher was so angry that her face turned ugly. How can she be so outrageous? Yan Bingqing's temper has always been like this. Whenever something doesn't go her way, she will lose her temper. Everyone is already used to it. Shusher, do you still remember that assistant I mentioned to you before? She directly splashed me with boiling water and scalded a layer of my skin, but what can you do? Yan Bingqing has a sugar daddy backing her, no one can afford to offend her. She can be so lawless just because she has someone backing her. Yun Shusher found it a little unreasonable. This is too much, it's simply too much. Yes. No one dares to offend her, though. It's already considered good that I was splashed with tea by her. She's used to being lawless and arrogant. You can bully me. You can't bully my people. Yun Shusher pulled her hand and walked out. She exclaimed, "Shusher, where are you going?" Chapter 677. She had only been away for half a day, yet she had already dared to bully her. Yan Bingqing was too much of a bully. She stubbornly refused to leave and repeatedly told her to forget about it. Shusher, we don't have to offend her. Yan Bingqing's influence is quite big. Quite a few young actresses are suppressed by her. She usually associates with many rich and powerful young masters. We can't win against her. I'm not going to become enemies with her, I'm just trying to reason with her, Yun Shusher said unhappily. Reason? She laughed and said helplessly, this industry is like this. There's no reason. It only cares about whether you have the ability, power, background, backing, and resources. People in this industry only care about this. Reason is a joke in their eyes. I don't want to cause trouble for you. Since I've chosen this job, I'm already mentally prepared. Alright, I have my own opinions. No matter what, she has to apologize to you today. With that, Yun Shusher held her hand and walked toward Yan Bingqing's lounge. She followed behind and could not help but feel that Yun Shusher's image had suddenly become bigger. It was not that she had never been an assistant to other celebrities. The so-called assistant could be said to be livestock that worked like a cow or a horse. If a celebrity was unhappy, they could beat or scold her as they wished. Being an assistant was tough. On the surface, it seemed to be glorious and could be in the same frame as many celebrities and be in close contact with them, but in reality, being an assistant was the most difficult and the most vulnerable. There was no such thing as a celebrity who truly treated you as a friend. However, Yun Shusher's appearance had shattered her understanding. It turned out that there was someone as amiable as Yun Shusher among celebrities. She was indescribably grateful to Yun Shusher. Yan Bingqing's lounge was a VIP lounge that she had designated. It was luxurious and high-end, even a grade higher than Yun Shusher's. Yan Bingqing was very particular about the equipment on set and had strict requirements. This lounge was originally prepared for Yun Shusher, but Yan Bingqing snatched it away. Yun Shusher didn't care and gave it away. Anyway, it was just a lounge. To her, it didn't matter at all. At the entrance of the lounge, Yun Shusher walked in as if there was no one else around. Yan Bingqing, who was in the midst of putting on makeup, had a rough idea of what was going on when she saw her walking in with Mu Shi. She had long expected this to happen. She wasn't afraid that Yun Shusher would come looking for her. Since she was here, she could give her a show of strength and teach her a lesson. Yan Bingqing smiled and asked, "What's wrong? Sister Bingqing, are you busy?" Yun Shusher was not as angry as the actress had imagined her to be. Instead, she gave her an amiable smile and behaved elegantly. It was a kind of elegance that seemed to come from a noble's bones. It was different from Yan Bingqing's aura. The former's aura was natural, while the latter's was just a combination of makeup and scripts. When the two stood together, it was obvious who was superior. Yan Bingqing was stunned for a moment before replying, "I'm not busy." She didn't realize that her aura had been greatly suppressed by Yun Shusher's frown and smile. "It's like this, I just came back from filming and saw that my assistant's arm was scalded. Although she didn't say anything to me, I heard from some people present that you were the one who splashed it. I want to ask what exactly happened." Chapter 678. Yan Bingqing said plainly as she slowly stood up. Her posture was elegant and enchanting as if she were a queen, high and mighty. She walked up to Yun Shusher and looked down at her condescendingly. Clearly, she was disdainful of her confrontation. "Yo! Are you a saint? You actually came to confront me over an assistant. Why? So what if I did it?" As Yan Bingqing said this, her eyes turned exceptionally vicious. "I did it on purpose." "So what?" The provocation on her face seemed to be silently declaring, "Even if you are my assistant, what can you do to me?" Yun Shusher narrowed her eyes as a trace of restrained anger surfaced in her eyes. "This Yan Bingqing is indeed targeting me, so she laid her hands on my assistant? How can she be so ruthless?" Behind her, Mu Shi saw Yan Bingqing's serious and provocative expression. From the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Yun Shusher's suppressed anger and was about to explode. Afraid that things would blow up, she kept tugging at her assistant's hand and whispered, "Let's go. Let's go." She didn't want to stir up trouble. Yan Bingqing raised her eyes and saw her assistant's nervous expression. She could not help but laugh. "Look, your assistant is asking you to leave quickly. Even she knows not to offend me easily. You're the only one who doesn't take me seriously." Upon hearing this, Yun Shusher raised a brow mockingly. "Yun Shusher, this is just a piece of advice. I'm warning you, even if you have Director Lin's favor, don't bully others too much. So what if you're the female lead? So what if you're very popular now? Let me tell you, on the set, you're the junior, and I'm the senior. Please don't put on such a high and mighty attitude all day long. I'm so annoyed just looking at you." Yan Bingqing was talking to herself, but was suddenly interrupted by Yun Shusher's sneer. Yan Bingqing's face froze, but she heard Yun Shusher mocking, "I heard that you entered the entertainment industry before graduating from secondary school. What do you mean?" Yan Bingqing's heart skipped a beat. Her education level was not high, and her education level was low. She had always felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in her throat. She announced to the public that she was a university graduate. However, everyone in the industry knew that her academic qualifications were fake. Many people laughed at her, saying that she had big breasts but no brains. She really didn't have the ability to study. Yun Shusher smiled and said, "Education shouldn't be used to criticize people. Some people don't have high education, but they are still very cultured. But today, I have seen it for myself. Yan Bingqing, you really should study more. Otherwise, with your IQ and EQ, it would be really difficult to communicate with you." "You?" Yun Shusher smiled faintly. "It's really scary to be uncultured." Yan Bingqing was poked in her sore spot by her words. Her face changed abruptly, and she lost her voice in anger. Yun Shishir continued to press her. Is it because I don't flatter you like others? Yan Bingqing was so angry that she could not speak. Jinjin was really pissed off. Yun Shishir, how dare you? Hey, Yan Bingqing, are you sick? Yun Shishir interrupted her impatiently. What? Yun Shishir did not avoid the viciousness in her eyes and said bluntly, I think you're sick. A very serious princess syndrome. Yan Bingqing was stunned. This B***TCH actually said that I have princess syndrome. Mu Shi, who was behind her, was completely stunned. She did not expect that Yun Shishir, who usually looked gentle and elegant, would be so venomous once she got angry. Chapter 679. Yun Shishir slowly took a step closer to her and sneered. Some people are pampered and arrogant because they were born as a princess doted on by everyone. Some people, on the other hand, are pretentious and arrogant. They are clearly not princesses, yet they still want to have the bad temper of one. This is called princess syndrome, do you understand? Yan Bingqing's face contorted in anger as she glared at her with gritted teeth. Yun Shishir stared into her eyes and said in a tone that brooked no argument, apologize to her. Why should I? Yan Bingqing, apologize to her. Yun Shishir, don't go overboard. You're the one who's going overboard. Yun Shishir raised her chin haughtily and enunciated each word clearly. Apologize. To her. Shut up. Yan Bingqing abruptly raised her hand and ruthlessly slapped her face. Mu Shi could not help but cry out in alarm when she saw this. Yun Shishir sneered, grabbed her wrist, and slapped her back. Pa. It wasn't a heavy sound, but it was clear and loud enough. This slap is mine. Her face was calm and her tone was unusually calm, but between the lines, there was an inviolable majesty. Yan Bingqing was stunned. While she was in a daze, Yun Shishir walked to the table, picked up a cup of cold water, and returned to Yan Bingqing. She raised her wrist and splashed the water on her face. Crash. The water splashed on Yan Bingqing's freshly made-up face and drenched it. The water flowed along her eyelashes, the tip of her nose, and dripped down her cheeks. Yan Bingqing was caught off guard when the water splashed on her face. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes, letting the water drip down. Yun Shishir slowly said, This is for Mu Shi. With that, she ignored the anger on Yan Bingqing's face and walked away with Mu Shi. Yan Bingqing was so angry that her whole body trembled. The assistant behind her quickly picked up a towel and hurriedly wiped the water on her face. This wipe ruined more than half of the makeup she had put on. The assistant was careful, but she still accidentally hurt her. Yan Bingqing angrily pushed them aside and shouted, Get lost. Get lost. All of you, get lost. The assistants looked at each other and then scrambled away, afraid that Yan Bingqing would be implicated in her anger. She was the only one left in the spacious lounge. Yan Bingqing sat in front of the dressing mirror and looked at herself. Her face was in a terrible state, and her clothes were drenched. The makeup on her face was done in less than an hour. As for the clothes on her body, she had to borrow them from the costume team. Thinking that she still had to act in the next scene, this Yun Shishir was clearly trying to embarrass her. Good. Very good. Yun Shishir, just you wait. Back in the lounge, Mu Shi was still in a state of shock. She looked at Yun Shishir, who was sitting in front of the mirror with a calm face. Thinking of the scene earlier, she could not help but tremble in fear. Seeing Yun Shishir's calm face, she could not help but tremble. Shishir, aren't you afraid? Afraid of what? Yun Shishir was confused. Afraid that Yan Bingqing will take revenge on you. Yun Shishir smiled, thinking that she was making a mountain out of a molehill. Yan Bingqing is not a monster. Will she eat me? Chapter 680. I know. Yun Shishir put down the powder in her hand and looked at her seriously. I know what kind of person Yan Bingqing is, so I don't offend her easily. Mu Shi, you should know that I'm not someone who likes to stir up trouble. If I can give in, I'll give in. Hence, when Yan Bingqing wanted to occupy her waiting room, Yun Shishir did not fight with her and chose to take a step back. Yan Bingqing had repeatedly made things difficult for her, ostracized her, and badmouthed her. She did not argue with her either. She just wanted to finish filming in peace. That was all. However, this doesn't mean that I'm weak. I have my principles, too. Yun Shishir looked at her assistant and said lightly, "She can go against me, but I can't tolerate it when she implicates the people around me." Mu Shi was deeply shocked by her serious words. Perhaps, in the eyes of many, I seem to be a weak person. But whether I'm weak or timid, everyone has a reverse scale. She was touched, but she could not hide the worry on her face. "But, what if she takes revenge on you?" "Shishir, you don't have to offend such a person for me." "What will you do if she takes revenge on you?" "I'll deal with whatever comes my way," Yun Shishir said lightly. Mu Shi looked at her calmly and worriedly. There was a scene in the afternoon between Yun Shishir and Yan Bingqing. However, Yan Bingqing did not arrive after a long time. Lin Fengtian waited for a long time but still did not see her. He was so angry that he almost cut off the scene. In the end, Yan Bingqing's assistant came in a hurry to report that Yan Bingqing had a fever. Fever? Lin Fengtian cursed a few times. He had only heard of people suffering from heatstroke in this weather. He had never heard of a fever. He did not know what she was up to now. Forget it, forget it. Lin Fengtian hurriedly arranged for the next scene. Because Yan Bingqing was sick, this scene could only be postponed. Yun Shishir frowned suspiciously. She didn't know what Yan Bingqing was up to. Could it be that she had caught a cold and had a fever after splashing a cup of water on her? He was too weak to stand up to a gust of wind. Mu Shi whispered into her ear, "Shishir, maybe she didn't have time to touch up her makeup and got her clothes wet. She's afraid that the director will blame her, so she found an excuse." Only then did Yun Shishir come to a realization. After filming in the afternoon, Lin Fengtian announced the end of the day's filming because the weather was too hot. For the past few days, the filming had been going very smoothly. Lin Fengtian was in a good mood and suggested that he invite Gu Xingze and Yun Shishir to have a meal together. He felt that ever since that incident, there was something strange between the two of them. Everyone was very engrossed in filming, but after filming, Gu Xingze and Yun Shishir had almost zero interaction. Even when filming, Gu Xingze was absent-minded from time to time, sometimes forgetting his lines. Although these were small mistakes, Lin Fengtian noticed them. Thus, he pondered for a meal to let the two familiarize themselves with each other. Yun Shishir apologetically refused. "Director Lin, I'm sorry, I still have something to do back home." "What is it?" "I still have to take care of my father when I get back." In fact, Yin Yeqing had rushed back to his hometown to attend the funeral. She was worried about leaving the little lad alone at home. Although Li Hanlin was fetching him to school, it was rare for it to end so early, so she wanted to rush back to give him a surprise. Naturally, she could not be frank with Lin Fengtian about this. Chapter 681. When they reached home, Yun Shishir purposely walked softly in order to give little Munchkin a surprise. The moment she entered the house, she saw the school bag on the sofa. Yun Shishir walked into the kitchen and didn't see little Munchkin. Instead, she saw the groceries she had bought from the market placed on the countertop. She glanced at it. It was a sumptuous meal of meat and vegetables. Yun Shishir walked to the study and pushed the door open. Little Munchkin was scrolling through Weibo in the study. These 2 days, he had been paying attention to the official Weibo of The Green Apple. Mommy left early and returned late because of filming. He rarely had the time to spend with Mommy like before. He could only follow Mommy's progress on the set through the behind-the-scenes photos that were posted on Weibo. Hearing the door open, he looked up in shock. When he saw that it was Yun Shishir, he was surprised. "Mommy. You're back." As he spoke, he flew into her warm embrace. "Mommy, you missed you so much." "Little fool, Mommy and you haven't seen each other for a day." Yun Shishir scratched his nose, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Yu lifted his little face and replied in all seriousness, how could that be? Why do I feel like I haven't seen mommy for a year? Is it that exaggerated? It's called, a day feels like a year. Mommy is stupid. Yu smiled gently and planted a kiss on her cheek. Mommy, why are you back so early today? Because I missed my Yu. Yun Shusher couldn't help but pinch his cheeks. They were chubby. They felt good. She couldn't help but pinch them a few more times. Little Munchkin didn't look aggrieved at all. He looked at her with a smile as if he was an adorable doll, obediently allowing her to do whatever she wanted to him. Little Munchkin seemed to have put on some weight recently. At least his face wasn't as thin as before. It was chubby and cute. Aya, how can my Yu be so cute? Yun Shusher rubbed her face against his. Little Munchkin's watery eyes curved into crescents as he enjoyed this intimacy. If it was possible, he wouldn't get sick of it even if his mommy pinched his face for 1,000 years or even 10,000 years. It's because mommy is so beautiful, so beautiful. Yu inherited mommy's beautiful genes. That's why Yu is so cute. With this compliment, Yun Shusher was so proud that she could fly to the sky. She couldn't help but rub his hair. Our Yu is so sweet. Mommy loves you so much. Hee hee. Yu emphasized seriously, Yu is telling the truth, the truth. All right. Be good. Then mommy will go watch some TV first. When Yu is done making dinner, you can massage mommy's shoulders. Yun Shusher nodded. Yun Tianyu then went straight to the kitchen. Yun Shusher sat on the sofa and watched TV for a while. Coincidentally, she switched to an entertainment channel, which was broadcasting an interview with an entertainment reporter on set 4, The Green Apple. When the interview came to Yan Bingqing, the reporter asked a sharp and piercing question. Yan Bingqing, many fans on Weibo are comparing you with Yun Shusher. What do you think of this? Yan Bingqing faced the camera with undisguised arrogance and contempt. She retorted, you're asking me what I think, and I'm asking you what you think. What's there to compare? The reporter said, I think this comparison is very impolite. Chapter 682. Yun Shusher's face turned cold. She picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. How annoying. Forget it. At least, out of sight, out of mind. She walked to the kitchen. Just as she walked in, she saw the pot on the gas stove heating up. Yu was holding a kitchen knife, and after a series of clanging sounds, he deftly cut the scallions into small pieces and threw them into the pot together with the garlic cloves. He then skillfully stir-fried them. Yun Shusher was dumbfounded by the sight. Every time she saw Yu's superb knife skills, she would be shocked. After a while, a fragrant aroma wafted out. Yun Shusher smelled it intoxicatedly, and her tightly knitted brows relaxed a little. With the children at home, everything was fine. Her greatest fortune was giving birth to Yu and Xiao Yichen, these two babies. Yu, especially, was the little god of warmth. No matter what upset her outside, when she saw Yu's bright smile at home, all her unhappiness and annoyance would quickly dissipate. Her little god of warmth seemed to have mastered some magical magic. He always had the ability to disperse her negative emotions. How nice. This was probably the so-called happiness. Yun Shusher did not know how other children of this age were like, but she felt that Yu was only 7 years old. Was he too precocious? Yun Shusher was deep in thought. Was she not a good mother? While she was deep in thought, Yun Tianyu had finished cooking a dish. When he turned around, he saw her standing at the door with a strange look on her face. He could not help but raise a brow. Mommy, what's wrong? Yun Shusher came back to her senses at once. Ah, nothing. Did I disturb you? The corner of his lips twitched. No, it's just that the kitchen reeks of oil and fumes. Mommy should go out, or else you'll become a haggard old woman. Yun Shusher was amused by him. What haggard old woman? Aren't you afraid that you'll be affected by the smoke? Yun Tianyu smiled elegantly without saying a word, but his eyes seemed to say, "Who asked me to be so unlucky to have a mommy who is not good at housework?" Yun Shusher was shocked by his gaze. Hey, hey, hey. I protest. You're obviously mocking mommy with that look in your eyes. But Yu doesn't dislike mommy for that. As he spoke, he picked up the vegetables at the side and poured some water to wash them carefully. Didn't Yu say this before? Mommy is in charge of being beautiful and Yu is in charge of raising the family. When Yun Shusher heard this, she didn't know why. Even though it was clearly a joke, she vaguely felt guilty towards Yu. Hence, she walked behind Yu and hugged his soft body. Yu, actually, mommy also thinks that I'm not good enough. Yu was startled and immediately retorted, "Who said that? Who said bad things about mommy?" It must be Mu Yaja. That man must have accused mommy of being irresponsible in front of mommy. At this moment, a certain man in the Mu Group's CEO's office sneezed elegantly. He was shot in the crossfire. Yun Shusher shook her head. You don't have to cook anymore. Let mommy do it. No. Yu rejected her outright. Huh? Why? Yun Shusher was baffled. Mommy's cooking is actually very delicious. It's just that sometimes, mommy's cooking will be a little substandard. It's just that sometimes. She earnestly defended herself. Yu, however, said, Yu thinks that it's a very blissful thing to let mommy eat Yu's cooking. Huh? Yun Shusher was stunned. Chapter 683. As he spoke, he turned around and hugged her waist with a gentle smile. To capture mommy's heart, you have to start from her stomach. That way, mommy will rely on Yu. She can't leave Yu. In his world, more often than not, he would experience the intrigue of others, the darkness of the world, and even the bloodshed of the world, much earlier than other children. His heart seemed to be divided into two extremes. On one side, he was scheming, dark, and had the world in his hands. On the other side, he was naive, kind, and even pure. However, this side of him was only for Yun Shusher. It could be said that in his heart, his mommy was the last piece of pure land. He also tried his best to protect her and not let her be tainted by any trace of darkness in this world. He did his best to protect this piece of pure land. In front of Yun Shusher, he always maintained the most innocent and pure side of a child. He wanted his mommy to rely on him and not leave him. This way, his mommy would be with him forever. Yun Shusher could not help laughing. Yu baby, even if the food you cook isn't good, mommy won't leave Yu. But there are clearly many people fighting with Yu for mommy. Yu complained unhappily. Xiao Yichen was one of them. Mu Yaja was one of them, too. Even Gu Xingze had thoughts about his mommy. He felt uneasy. On one hand, he rationally believed that there should be someone by his mommy's side to accompany her for the rest of her life. On the other hand, he naively thought that it was enough for his mommy to have him. He could give his mommy whatever she wanted. Was this not enough? It was extremely contradictory. He could not learn to let go freely and watch his mommy fall into someone else's arms. Wasn't this kind of thinking morbid? Yu was worried. Sometimes, he felt that his possessiveness was too strong. He knew that this kind of thinking was irrational and unrealistic, but he could not control himself. He was a little conflicted. Mommy was his family. He could give her love, but he could not give her the love of a lover. He shouldn't be so selfish. This was undoubtedly kidnapping. Yun Tianyu turned around, picked up the knife again, and slowly sliced the meat. But his mind was still stubbornly mulling over this question. His mind was in a mess, muddle-headed. His thoughts were in a mess, and he didn't pay attention to the movements of his hands. In a moment of carelessness, he accidentally cut his finger. Yu was still immersed in his thoughts and did not notice the sharp pain coming from his fingertips. When he came back to his senses, he lowered his head and saw that the chopping board was already dyed red. Sensing the sharp pain coming from his hand, he looked at his fingertips in a daze. Blood was already flowing out. Yun Tianyo's lips parted, but he remained silent. He didn't feel much pain. Startled, Yun Shishir hurriedly grabbed his hand to take a closer look. Fortunately, the wound was not deep and was only a shallow cut. She cleaned the wound for him, took out a bandage, and bandaged it for him. "Why were you so careless?" Yun Shishir asked with a frown. Yu Yu was startled and shook his head. He was distracted and thinking about something just now, so he did not pay attention. "Go sit on the sofa first. Leave the rest to mommy," Yun Shishir said as she carried Yu Yu to the sofa. Yu Yu pursed his lips and nodded obediently. Chapter 684. After serving the dishes, Yu Yu sat at the dining table and looked at the sumptuous spread on the table with a blissful smile. Yun Shishir was wearing the same teddy bear apron as Yun Tianyo's. This was personally chosen by Yu Yu. He liked this design very much. Just as Yun Shishir sat down at the table, the doorbell rang. The mother-son pair looked at each other strangely. Who could it be? Father? A few days ago, he went back to his hometown for a funeral and said that he would only be back half a month later. Could he be back early now? Yun Shishir got up and walked to the door. Just as she opened it, a cute little head poked in. Xiao Yichen poked his head in first, as if to inquire about the situation. When he looked up, he bumped into Yun Shishir, who was standing at the door in surprise. He opened his mouth and wanted to call out, "Mommy," but he had always been a dull and shy person. He didn't know how to play tricks or act cute, so he couldn't force a word out of his mouth even after a long time. Xiao Yichen could not help feeling a little embarrassed. He had clearly prepared himself mentally. Even if he did not utter a single syllable, from the way his lips moved, it was clear that he was calling out, "Mommy." Yun Shishir saw it. She could not help laughing. This child was quite shy. The little lad's sudden visit surprised her, but more than that, she was delighted. "Why are you here?" Yun Tianyu heard the commotion and could not help turning his head to take a look. When he saw that it was Xiao Yichen, the satisfied smile on his face faded a little. Why was it him? Mu Yichen. Why was he here? Mu Yichen walked in obediently, and Mu Yaja followed closely behind. A certain man said righteously, "I wanted to bring Xiao Yichen to visit the set, but I received news that filming ended early today." Subtext, "That's why I brought the child here to freeload." Yu Yu gritted her teeth in anger. This father and son pair were blatantly freeloading. Shameless. She looked at Mu Yaja's relaxed expression. Had the Mu Group's network been fixed? It seemed that he had been too lenient last time. In just a few days, it had been repaired. Next time, he would not be so lenient. At the thought of Mu Yaja's black-bellied expression when he threatened him previously, Yun Tianyu bit down hard on his chopsticks in extreme displeasure. Mu Yaja glanced at Yun Tianyu the moment he stepped through the door. As if to provoke him, he raised a brow and said coldly, "One day." His words were filled with provocation. Yun Shishir and Mu Yichen were both confused. Obviously, they didn't know what he meant by that. Yun Tianyu understood, though. One day, it was repaired in just one day. This was a provocation. Sure. Was this man issuing him a challenge? If that was the case, he would destroy the Mu Group's network later and see what he could do about it. Mu Yaja seemed to have seen through his thoughts. With a devilish smile, his eyes taunted him, "Try it." The father and son stared at each other in the air. Instantly, sparks flew and smoke filled the air. Both men's auras were unbelievably strong. That terrifying aura instantly spread to every corner of the living room. Even Yun Shishir could feel the silent confrontation between the father and son, which was filled with smoke. It was too scary. Chapter 685. She said that she wanted to see Xiao Yichen and make up for Xiao Yichen's childhood where he lacked motherly love. Mu Yaja then brought the little guy over. Xiao Yichen's arrival was unexpected and, at the same time, elated. Yu Yu, on the other hand, was unhappy. Even after exchanging pleasantries, Yu Yu's gaze on Xiao Yichen remained apathetic. Yun Shishir broke out in a cold sweat. Xiao Yichen, are you hungry? Do you want to eat first? Xiao Yichen shyly pursed his lips and nodded. Yun Shishir then carried Xiao Yichen to the dining table. Alas, the moment her hands picked up little Yichen, something happened. Yun Tianyo's gaze instantly shifted to Xiao Yichen. Stare, like a tiger eyeing its prey. Even though Xiao Yichen did not see Yun Tianyo's frosty gaze, he could still feel the immense pressure. It was like a sharp stab in his back. It was as if countless needles were pricking his body. Xiao Yichen shuddered all of a sudden. Yun Shishir was a little helpless and could not help casting an innocent look at Yun Tianyu. Seeing his mother pleading with him with her eyes, Yu Yu restrained himself a little. However, he still laid out a condition. Mommy, sit beside Yu Yu. He patted the seat beside him. Yun Shishir immediately sat beside him. She felt helpless. She knew that her Yu Yu was jealous. Boo-hoo. In a way, he had inherited his father's ruthlessness and overbearingness when jealous. There was no doubt that he was exactly the same. One look and one could tell that he was his biological son. Yun Shishir clapped her hands. All right, let's eat. Then, there was an awkward silence. The dining table had become a chaotic battlefield between the father and son. The gazes of the three men constantly crossed over the dining table. The atmosphere suddenly plummeted and turned into an ice cellar. It would not be an exaggeration to describe it as the glint of swords and the smell of gunpowder. Her smile froze at the corner of her mouth. Yun Shishir's smile turned cold as she watched the father and son cross gazes. She broke out in a cold sweat. Did they have to be like this? They were clearly father and son, they were father and son. Why were their eyes turning red the moment they met like enemies? Yun Shishir turned to look at the other's eyes and laughed helplessly. Yu Yu. Let's eat, she said, Yu. Let's eat, Mommy. Yu Yu pointed at Mu Yaja and complained, this uncle is glaring at me fiercely. You use, of you. You use. He only knew how to complain. Yun Shishir was naturally on Yu Yu's side. She raised her head and gave Mu Yaja a warning look. Mu Yaja, that's enough. Eat properly. Mu Yaja did not say a word and merely raised a brow. He was really wronged. This brat was clearly abusing his power to bully others. Yun Tianyu suddenly acted coquettishly at the side. Mommy, feed Yu Yu. Yun Shishir nodded and took his mini rice bowl. Mu Yichen also acted coquettishly at the side. I want to feed, too. Me, too. Mu Yaja also joined in. Yun Shishir rolled her eyes helplessly. Hey, that's enough. Do you think I have 3 heads and 6 arms? Yun Tianyu said angrily, Mommy, don't bother about them. Mu Yichen only kept blinking innocently and pitifully at Yun Shishir. Every pitiful look was undoubtedly a blow to her heart. Yun Shishir could not help feeling sorry for him. Mu Yaja said, Xiao Yichen, Mommy won't feed you. Daddy will feed you. Xiao Yichen pitifully cried, Woo. I don't want Daddy to feed me. Chapter 686. Mommy, the atmosphere froze for a moment. Everyone was taken aback. Xiao Yichen realized that he had inadvertently called out to her. He pursed his lips shyly and innocently knitted his brows. Yun Tianyu stared at Xiao Yichen in a daze. His call was undoubtedly like a heart-piercing arrow that made Yun Shishir lose her ability to resist. There was no doubt that she was a mother. Even if her heart was as hard as a rock, she would still be defeated when her child called out to her softly. Yun Shishir smiled and said gently, Okay. Mommy, feed him. Hence, she got up, walked over to Xiao Yichen's seat, and sat down. Yu Yu could only watch helplessly as Yun Shishir picked up a spoon and patiently fed Xiao Yichen. Xiao Yichen took a bite and widened his eyes in surprise. He was obviously stunned by the deliciousness and exclaimed, "Wow! It's so delicious." Yun Shishir proudly said, "Tonight's dinner was all prepared by Yu." As soon as she said that, Mu Yaja, who had just taken a bite of the glutinous rice and roasted chicken, froze again. Were these dishes Yuntianyo's handiwork? It was simply unbelievable. Disregarding the exquisite appearance, just the taste alone was definitely comparable to that of a star-rated chef. It was even better than that. It was no wonder that Yun Shishir had boasted to him that Yuntianyo's culinary skills were the best. Now, it seemed that her praise was not exaggerated. His culinary skills were indeed excellent. Still, Mu Yaja looked up suspiciously at Yuntianyo's small hand holding the chopsticks. It was pink, tender, and chubby. It was hard to imagine what kind of miracle this hand had created. How did he master such culinary skills? He was only 7 years old. How could he hold a kitchen knife? The latter looked at him lightly and snorted disdainfully, as if to say, "Consider yourself lucky today." Other than Yun Shishir, he had never cooked for anyone else. If Yun Shishir was not at home, even if it was Yun Yecheng, he would not personally cook. Xiao Yichen was still immersed in the deliciousness of the dishes, unable to extricate himself. Happiness. He was so happy that he was about to cry. Compared to the delicacies cooked by Yun Tianyu, the daily recipes in the Mu residence were already boring to him. What Yun Tianyu did was different, though. He changed his style. He never followed the prescribed order. Therefore, as long as he was the one cooking, day after day, year after year, he would never get tired of it. Xiao Yichen felt that he was done for. It seemed that his younger brother's cooking was very suitable for him. Now that she had fallen in love with this flavor, she was afraid that whatever she ate would be tasteless when she returned to the Mu residence, right? Xiao Yichen's appetite was greatly stimulated. Yun Shishir couldn't help but be surprised. This child's appetite was not bad. He had already finished 2 bowls of rice. She was happy for a moment. She actually forgot about Yun Tianyu, who had not eaten a single grain of rice. Yu sorrowfully felt that he had really fallen out of favor. His mommy only cared about Xiao Yichen and did not care about him. He deliberately did not eat a single mouthful of rice, hoping that his mommy would notice his unhappiness and coax him. He had been staring at her for a long time, but his mommy acted as if she did not see him and continued to play with Xiao Yichen. Yun Tianyo's eyes were filled with grievance and resentment. They were about to burst out of his eyes. This father-son pair was simply too despicable. They must be doing it on purpose to monopolize mommy. Chapter 687. He hated them the most. Snatching his mommy. Yu meekly called out, "Mommy." Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a figure move. Yu looked up and saw Mu Yaja sitting beside him with his palm gently covering his adorable little head. "Are you angry?" Yu turned his face away in a fit of pique and ignored him. Mu Yaja, however, pinched his chin and forced him to look at him. "Daddy is talking to you. It's impolite to ignore Daddy." Yun Tianyu snorted. "Did I admit that you're my daddy? Don't flatter yourself." He was proud and awkward deep down. His stubbornness was quite similar to his mommy's. "You're shy." "No, I'm not." Yu. Mu Yaja thought that this lad was really adorable when he was being awkward. "Next time, cook for Daddy too, okay?" "No, I'll only cook for Mommy." "Don't even think about it." Yun Tianyu stuck out his tongue provocatively at him. "Dream on." Mu Yaja lowered his eyes to look at him. Suddenly, he used a pair of chopsticks to gently pinch the boy's little pink tongue. Yu, is this man a pervert? Is it fun to tease me like this?" "Interesting." Mu Yaja seemed to have seen through his thoughts as he commented nonchalantly. "Mu Yaja, are you a pervert? It's not cute for a child to talk like this. Besides, if I'm a pervert, what are you, then?" If he said that he was a pervert, then he was his son. Was he not a little pervert, too? In fact, he even suspected that this son of his had a genetic mutation. If not, how could he be so abnormal? Unexpectedly, Yun Tianyu casually replied, "I'm a genius." "Unlike you, I'm a genius." "You're an old pervert, the most perverted kind." Mu Yaja retorted, "You're a genius." "Don't you have my genes to thank?" "Thank you? If it weren't for your genes, I might have been better." "You're so cute. Shouldn't you thank me?" "Mu Yaja, open your eyes and look carefully. I obviously inherited more of my mother's beauty. I despise you. You're so smart because you inherited my genes. Then why don't you explain why Mui Chen is so stupid?" Mui Chen, who had been eating quietly at the side, was a little hurt. He felt as if he had been shot while lying down. Mu Yaja righteously defended his Debeo. "How is he stupid? If you ask him to calculate 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, he can't wait to count his toes. I'm smart because my mommy taught me well, unlike Mui Chen, whose IQ is trampled under his feet every day." Mui Chen's pinkish face scrunched up sadly, feeling hurt. The father and son bickered with each other. Mu Yaja bitterly realized that he thought he had a sharp tongue, but when compared to Yun Tianyu in this aspect, he was nothing. He could only be crushed by Yun Tianyu. There was an old saying, "The older the ginger, the spicier it is." Alas, Mu Yaja was about to cry from the spiciness of Yun Tianyu's tender ginger tongue. Yun Tianyu's sharp-tongued ability was to the max. Mu Yaja even suspected that the lad's sharp-tongued talent was maxed out when he was just born. Every word he said was mercilessly rebutted by Yun Tianyu. He was invincible. Yun Shusher's lips twitched as she helplessly said, "Stop fooling around." Chapter 688. Yun Tianyu complained bitterly, "Mommy, Yu wants a hug." Yun Shusher's eyes flickered. Just as she was about to walk toward Yu, Xiao Yichen pursed his lips and pretended to cry. "Mommy, Xiao Yichen wants a hug, too." "Mommy, I want a hug." Yu pouted. "Mommy, I want a kiss." Xiao Yichen sobbed. Yun Shusher was a little overwhelmed by this scene. She could not split herself. The two little lads were calling for her. She knew in her heart that Yu was a little resistant to Mu Yaja and Xiao Yichen. It was not his fault, though. It was not that Yu was too willful. It was just that, all along, there were only her and Yu in this family. Hence, the children naturally regarded Mu Yaja and Xiao Yichen as intruders. Their hearts were full of repulsion and resistance. This was not what she had hoped for. She wanted the two brothers to get along well. 6 years was neither long nor short, but there was an insurmountable gap between the two children. Mu Yichen liked this younger brother of his a lot. Yu, however, had sealed off his heart and refused to let anyone in. Yun Shusher pursed her lips. She had no experience in dealing with this. To her, the two little guys were her favorite. She would protect and dote on both of them. She did not want to be in such a distant situation. Yu blinked his eyes. He had clearly acted coquettishly. If it were in the past, his mommy would definitely hug him in her arms and gently coax him. Now, however, she did not do anything. It was as if she was worried about Xiao Yichen. He could not help feeling a little disappointed. The little lad's pink face looked slightly aggrieved. Everything in front of him gradually turned gray, and his eyes quickly filled with tears. He had always thought that he was the most important and irreplaceable person in his mommy's heart. Just like how no one could replace his mommy in his heart. Mommy was the most important. However, why did it seem that he was not the most important person in his mommy's heart? "Mommy, do you not love Yu anymore?" Yu pursed his lips aggrievedly as tears streamed down his face. "Mommy is the most important person in Yu's heart, but Mommy doesn't love Yu anymore." Little Munchkin's pink lips were tightly pursed. Even though he was pretending to be stubborn, his little face was still wet with tears. She hurriedly explained, "No. Mommy still loves Yu. It's just..." Her delicate brows furrowed slightly as her gaze fell on little Yichen, who was equally at a loss. The latter felt so wrong that his eyes turned red. He loved his younger brother very much, too. He could not bear for him to be wronged. He did not mean to compete with his younger brother earlier. He just thought that it was a joke and that he was just teasing him. On the one hand, he wanted to get closer to Yunshushu. His daddy told him that this woman was his dearest mommy. And this child was his biological younger brother. After being separated for 6 years, they finally reunited, but this younger brother of his seemed to have built a tall wall and did not let them get close to each other. He did not know how to open the door to Yu Yu's heart. What should he do? Xiao Yichen walked to Yu Yu's side aggrievedly. His small hand gently pinched the corner of his shirt and tugged at it, trying to get his attention. Yun Tianyu took a step back and distanced himself from him. Chapter 689. He opened his mouth, but his voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing. He was easily embarrassed, and it could even be said that he was a child who never took the initiative. He took the initiative to approach him and talk to him, but Yu Yu was a little cold and avoided his intimacy. Xiao Yichen felt wronged. Yichen, I like you. The last 3 words were barely audible. I like you. Xiao Yichen wanted to confess loudly. He didn't want his brother to be so distant from him. He wouldn't fight with his brother for mommy. He would be like mommy and protect his brother well and dote on him. Wasn't that good? We are. Xiao Yichen was so anxious that his face turned red. He wanted to say that sentence urgently, but because of his anxiety, he was a little incoherent. In his heart, he kept repeating the same sentence. We are a family. We are a family. I am your older brother, and you are my younger brother. We are a family. I will dote on you like mommy, protect you, and not let anyone bully you. However, Yu Yu stood at the side from the beginning to the end. He looked down and turned his face to the side, not looking at them. Yunshushu couldn't stand it anymore. She walked over and squatted beside him. Seeing that he was biting his lip in a fit of pique, she helplessly comforted him. Yu Yu, don't throw a tantrum. I'm not. Yu Yu looked at her with reddened eyes. His gaze was affectionate and a little helpless. Mommy, I don't want daddy or brother. I only want you. I don't want them. Behind him, Xiao Yichen looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He was stunned and his body was extremely cold. Mu Yaja's expression was calm. Yu Yu's reaction was as he had expected. This child's possessiveness towards Yunshushu was unusually strong. Yu Yu was a stubborn child. No one could change the fact that he had decided on. Yunshushu didn't expect this child to be so stubborn. She was angry and amused at the same time. Yu Yu, be good. Don't mess around. I'm not messing around. Yu Yu hugged her tightly and said helplessly, I don't like them. I tried to accept them, but Yu Yu couldn't do it. Yu Yu only wanted mommy. Mommy was enough. Was it not enough for mommy to have Yu Yu? Yu Yu can protect mommy, raise mommy, and love mommy. Yu Yu, Yunshushu held her forehead and let out a long sigh. Her heart ached a little. She had never seen Yu Yu so helpless before. His eyes were filled with fear as if he was about to lose her. Despair. But he wouldn't lose her. Could it be that in this family, there would be another daddy, another older brother to accompany him and dote on him? Her love for him would not decrease either. Wasn't that good? Yu Yu, he's your older brother. He'll dote on you and love you just like mommy does. Xiao Yichen immediately nodded vigorously. Then, he looked at his face with a pair of eager and hopeful eyes. Even if he nodded, Xiao Yichen wouldn't be able to control himself and would hug him tightly in joy. Yu Yu followed Yunshushu's voice and turned to look at Xiao Yichen, who was standing behind her. This child had the same appearance and facial features as him. There were very few twins who looked like them. Their facial features were so similar that it was as if they were cast from the same mold. If the 2 little lads stood together, regardless of height, it was almost impossible to tell them apart. But in the end, he could only shake his head in disappointment and close his eyes. It was as if he was escaping. Chapter 690. Mommy is fierce. Yu Yu stared at her innocently with his big, clear eyes as though he was silently accusing her. Yu Yu is disobedient. Yun Shishir frowned and looked at him angrily. Yu Yu had never seen Yun Shishir angry. She had always been as gentle as water and had never been angry with him. However, she actually said that he was disobedient because of them. How was he disobedient? Yu Yu pursed his lips and clenched his fists tightly. He released them and clenched them again. He said sadly, "Mommy is stupid. Yu Yu, don't bother with Mommy." With that, the little guy ran back to the bedroom in a fit of pique. Bang! He slammed the door shut. In the living room, the three of them looked at each other and smiled helplessly. Xiao Yichen said sadly, "Mommy, did I make little brother angry?" In the bedroom, Yu Yu buried himself in the blanket and covered himself with it in a fit of pique. His small body curled up into a ball under the blanket and hugged himself tightly like a helpless baby. His eyes had long dried up and there were no more tears. However, his heart felt as though it had been viciously ripped open by a sharp object and was bleeding profusely. The door was slowly opened, and the sound of light footsteps came to the bedside. Was it Mommy? Did Mommy come to coax him because she was afraid that he would be angry and sad? Yu Yu carefully lifted a corner of the blanket and saw Xiao Yichen's bright and sunny smile. It was as though a huge hole had opened up in the darkness. The sunlight shone through the hole and it was warm. Yu Yu was stunned and his eyes widened. Yu Yu. Xiao Yichen called his name carefully. His face was so gentle that it was almost dripping with water. His heart skipped a beat. The grievance in Yu Yu's eyes faded a little. What? Yu Yu, I. Xiao Yichen gritted his teeth and said somewhat awkwardly, "I like you, Yu Yu." I know. Yu Yu was a little arrogant. He snorted as if he was embarrassed and quickly covered his face with the blanket again. At this moment, Yu Yu's handsome little face was slightly hot because of Xiao Yichen's shy confession. Xiao Yichen grabbed a corner of the blanket and smiled. "It's okay if you don't like me. I'll protect you. I know you're afraid that I'll steal your mommy from you, right?" Little Munchkin remained silent under the blanket. Xiao Yichen blinked and smiled. "Don't worry, I won't steal your mommy. Because I'm the older brother. I'll let you have your way. I don't want you to let me down." Little Munchkin's muffled voice came from under the blanket. "Mommy was originally mine, humph." I know. Seeing that he was willing to talk to him, Xiao Yichen was a little happy. When he first met Yun Tianyu, he had a strange feeling. This child was clearly covered in thorns like a small hedgehog, but he still felt a sense of closeness toward him. He liked him. From the first time he saw him, he liked this younger brother. He was smart, cute, and sometimes had a sharp tongue. He even deliberately teased him with difficult math questions. Still, he was so smart and cute. "Brother, don't be angry. It's my fault today. I wanted to play with you and made you sad. I won't do it again," he sincerely explained. Yu Yu's face flashed with surprise. He was a little surprised. Chapter 691. Separated by the blanket, Xiao Yichen opened his arms and hugged him gently and carefully. Under the blanket, Yu Yu felt his brother's closeness and his face flushed red. Xiao Yichen's hug made him so nervous that he didn't know where to put his hands. Then, there was a long, suffocating silence. After some time, a box-like object was stuffed in a corner of the blanket. He didn't know what it was, but he heard Xiao Yichen say in a cheerful voice, "Hey. This is your brother's gift to you." He had specially prepared this gift for him before he came. It was his gift to his brother. Xiao Yichen's footsteps could be heard from outside the blanket. Then, there was the sound of the door closing softly. Yu Yu poked his head out of the blanket and took out the object that Xiao Yichen had stuffed into the blanket. Under the light, he saw an exquisitely wrapped gift. Was it a gift? This fellow was quite attentive. He didn't seem as annoying as he thought. Yu Yu's eyes curved slightly, and a hint of a smile appeared at the corners of his lips. He didn't even realize that when he held the gift in his hands, the corners of his lips were curled up in satisfaction. After dinner, Xiao Yichen sat in the front passenger seat in the car. He seemed to be in a good mood, and the corners of his lips were always curled up. Mu Yaja glanced at him from the corner of his eye and couldn't help but ask, "What gift did you give your brother?" "It's a secret. I'm not going to tell Daddy." Xiao Yichen deliberately made a face mysteriously and then said shyly, "My brother will definitely like my gift." Mu Yaja teased, "But your brother doesn't seem to like you." "My brother will definitely like me." Xiao Yichen leaned against the window and looked at the bright moon in the sky as he vowed solemnly. At night, before the lights were turned off, Yun Shishir walked into the room and saw that Yu Yu was still sitting on the bed, playing with the exquisite gift in his hands. The gift was still beautifully wrapped. Although he didn't want to admit it in his heart, he was actually a little reluctant to open the gift. Yun Shishir walked to the bedside. Yu Yu immediately came back to her senses. She hid the gift under the pillow and looked at him warily. "Is this a gift from my brother?" Yun Shishir asked. Yu Yu licked her lips and said awkwardly, "I don't really like it. I just thought it would be fun. Mommy is a little curious about what he gave you." Yun Shishir deliberately probed him. "Why don't we open it and see?" "No." Yu Yu stared at him warily. "The packaging is quite interesting." "What a stubborn little fellow." Actually, he just couldn't bear to tear it apart. Yun Shishir pursed her lips and smiled, but she didn't expose him. This child was really a little arrogant. She could tell that he actually liked this gift very much. Nervousness, anticipation, and curiosity were all written on his face. However, he was a little awkward and wasn't good at expressing himself. Yun Shishir caressed his snowy face and pinched his chubby cheeks. She pursed her lips and said, "Mommy loves Yu Yu. Yu Yu is irreplaceable in Mommy's heart." Yu Yu hugged Yun Shishir and planted a sweet kiss on her face. "Yu Yu loves Mommy too. Mommy is unique in Yu Yu's heart." "Sleep early." Yun Shishir stroked his hair and kissed his forehead. "We still have to wake up early tomorrow." When they left the bedroom, the smile on Yun Shishir's face faded. This child was obviously still a little conflicted. Chapter 692. The filming of the movie progressed step by step. There were a few scenes involving Yin Dongyu and Yin Xiachuan after they had grown up. The production crew specially rushed to Huanyu Tower to film. It was not that Lin Fengtian was trying to save money, but in the original novel, after Yin Dongyu graduated, he joined the media company to work. In all aspects, the setting of Huanyu Tower was very suitable for the plot of the original novel. This plot described how, after graduating from high school, Yin Dongyu's parents realized that the relationship between Dongyu and Xiachuan had gone beyond the scope of a sibling relationship. While feeling uneasy, they also tried to find a way to cut off this unnecessary relationship. Hence, after Yin Xiachuan graduated from high school, she was sent overseas to study. No matter how reluctant Yin Xiachuan was, she could not go against her parents' orders. Furthermore, in order to cut off this unnecessary relationship, Yin Dongyu agreed to the matter and personally sent her on the plane. When he returned to the country, Yin Dongyu joined the media company and became the artistic director of the media company. Yin Xiachuan, on the other hand, returned to the country and successfully joined the company. This scene was arranged to be filmed at Huanyu Tower. Previously, during the filming of the movie, many reporters came to visit the set and interview the crew of The Green Apple. This caused Lin Fengtian to be extremely dissatisfied with him. He did not like reporters coming to visit the set. Before the movie was released, he wanted to create a sense of mystery about the movie. He did not want the filming process to be widely exposed. Hence, he mercilessly dismissed the reporters. The reporters complained a lot about this, but there was nothing they could do about Lin Fengtian. Actually, they had an ulterior motive for coming to visit the set. Instead, they were using the excuse of visiting the set to dig up information about the two main leads, Gu Xingze and Yun Shishir. When Yun Shishir walked out of the changing room, she happened to see Gu Xingze passing by the door. However, even though they bumped into each other, Gu Xingze only greeted her briefly before brushing past her. He was cold and distant, deliberately keeping a distance from her. Ever since that day in the music room, even though the production team had been reorganized and the main cast had returned, Gu Xingze was no longer as close to her as before. It could be said that he was extremely indifferent. Sometimes, there was no communication at all. She smiled. In her heart, she was more or less disappointed, but she could understand Gu Xingze's attitude towards her. This disappointment was not because of anything else, but because she seemed to have lost another friend. She had always regarded Gu Xingze as a friend, but Gu Xingze did not think so. He liked her. It was unknown when Gu Xingze started to have such an awareness. He liked Yun Shishir and wanted to protect her from any harm. But after that day, he suddenly realized that compared to Muyaja, he didn't seem to have the ability to take her back. If he was the head of the Gu clan, perhaps he would have the right to do so. But now, in terms of power, he couldn't even withstand a single blow from Muyaja. What was there to fight about? There was no way he could win against Muyaja. This made him feel a little embarrassed. What made him even more disappointed was that Yun Shishir had always only treated him as a friend. It was really a very pure way of thinking. He couldn't see any complicated feelings in her eyes. There was only the kind of feelings she had for friends. Even so, if they weren't close, they wouldn't fall for each other. If they didn't fall for each other, they wouldn't get hurt. Chapter 693. In the dressing room, Yun Shishir sat in front of the dressing table. Mu Shi was helping her tidy up her makeup bag as she looked at Yun Shishir's reflection in the mirror. She smiled and said, "Shishir, I realize that your facial features are very sculptural. No matter what style of makeup you wear, I can't see any disharmony on your face." Yun Shishir broke into laughter as she snapped out of her thoughts and glanced at her. "Mu Shi, is your hand better now?" She nodded repeatedly. "Yes, it's better now. The blisters have subsided. After applying the medicine you gave me for a few days, it's more or less healed now. Don't force yourself. If you still feel pain, you must tell me." She said helplessly, Shishir, I'm not that pretentious. It's just a small injury, it's all healed now." However, even though she said this, she was still very touched. A few days ago, Yun Shishir gave her a few days off. She was resting at home these few days, worried that she might be bullied by others in the production team. Worried, she ended her sick leave early and rushed to the production team. After beating around the bush, she found out that Yan Bingqing did not come to the production team these few days. Only then did she feel slightly relieved. The reason why she did not come to the production team was probably because she had to rush to the set. Before The Green Apple, Yan Bingqing had accepted another movie contract. Many big-name actors would choose to accept 2 movies at the same time and then mediate between them before rushing to the production team. Lin Fengtian hated this method. She did not even have the basic qualities of an actor. He almost fired Yan Bingqing, but the backing behind her was too strong. This role was originally given to the production team out of nowhere, so he had no choice but to swallow his anger. Yan Bingqing was not around a few days ago, so all her scenes were arranged for this day. A few scenes in university were cut by the director in a fit of anger. Logically speaking, Yan Bingqing should return to the production team today. At the thought of having to work with such a person with no character, Mu Shi felt unwell all over. However, this was how it was in this industry. Even if you don't like it, you still have to endure it. The makeup artist carefully applied makeup for Yun Shishir, while Yun Shishir sat quietly with her eyes closed. Her makeup artist was still Ding Ning. At first, when Yun Shishir joined the cast, the crew members did not think much of her. No matter what happened, they prioritized the big shots first. Gu Xingze started first, followed by Yan Bingqing, Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian. They were arranged according to the ranking of each celebrity. People were divided into different classes, flattering the strong and stepping on the weak. This was perfectly reflected in this film crew. There were several times when Yun Shishir had to do it herself because there was not enough manpower and she had no time to wait for Ding Ning to do the makeup. Fortunately, she had done some makeup homework before she joined the crew. She had also learned a lot of techniques from the training classes, so it was not a problem for her to deal with an emergency. In addition, she had a good foundation, so it was not a big deal. However, as time went by, Yun Shusher did not say anything, while Mushi had a lot of complaints. She complained more than once. Shusher, aren't they just bullying you because you have the lowest status? It's fine if it happens once or twice, but it's too much for you to be involved in this time and time again. No matter what, you're the female lead personally chosen by director Lin. I think you'll definitely become a hit. They don't have any foresight at all. Yun Shusher, however, remained silent. Chapter 694. Yun Shusher casually replied, "What do you mean by exclusive use? There's no need for that at all. It's too troublesome." "Why not?" Mushi said angrily, "Every time it's your turn to put on makeup, you're clearly the first to appear, yet you have to be the last to put on makeup? Anyway, I'm feeling sorry for you." Yun Shusher, however, said, "Mumu, if I were to hire an exclusive stylist, what would others think? They'll think that a newbie like me is acting like a big shot and will have thoughts about me." She did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. Mushi was stunned, but she heard her nonchalant reply, "Although I don't care what others think, I'm afraid of trouble. That's why I don't cause trouble. Besides, it's not a big deal." Yun Shusher had been in the production team for some time. With the exposure of the behind-the-scenes footage of her filming on the official Weibo of The Green Apple, she had accumulated a lot of fans. Now, the number of fans on Weibo had exceeded the 5 million mark. Although these 5 million fans were not worth mentioning to some A-list big shots, it was still not a big deal. However, after so many years in the entertainment industry, it was rare for a newbie to gain such an objective amount of exposure right after their debut. Such results could be said to be surprising. It also confirmed Lin Fengtian's words back then. This Yun Shusher, as long as she could seize an opportunity, would shoot to fame. Now, however, Yun Shusher was famous. Her popularity had skyrocketed. In the production team, all the staff's attitude toward her had completely changed. No one dared to slight her anymore. At least, in terms of details, Yun Shusher felt that she was slowly being respected in the production team. Ding Ning also took notice of her. "Shusher, you're so beautiful and photogenic." Ding Ning finished applying her eyeshadow and looked at Yun Shusher's mesmerizing eyes in the mirror. She could not help but click her tongue in praise. Yun Shusher could not help but laugh. "That's because you're good at it. You flatter me, you flatter me." Ding Ning smiled and put the eyeshadow brush into the Evolution makeup bag. He took out a box of lip gloss and mixed some colors on the palette. He said apologetically, "Shusher, you have a good temper. Putting on makeup for you is what makes my job so fascinating." From the first time he met Yun Shusher, Ding Ning had a good impression of her. He felt that she was modest, polite, and very gentle. He had never seen her make things difficult for any of the crew members and had always been very cooperative. Ding Ning was recognized as the top stylist in the circle. His skills were first class, so most of the people he came into contact with were first-tier big shots. She was used to serving famous celebrities like Yan Bingqing and Han Yuyan. Now that she was in front of Yun Shusher, it was like a cool breeze blowing on her face. Yan Bingqing was the kind of star who was stubborn. She would order the stylist to give her the style she thought she should use to appear on screen. Take the previous makeup photos for example. Logically speaking, Yan Bingqing's character should be a charming and beautiful rebellious high school student. However, Yan Bingqing insisted that Ding Ning give her a pure look. She also specified that she wanted the same makeup as Yun Shusher. She wanted nothing more than to compare herself with Yun Shusher. Ding Ning was a little hesitant. Pure makeup did not suit her character. He kindly reminded her but was humiliated by Yan Bingqing. Helplessly, he gave her a pure look. In the end, Yan Bingqing was scolded badly by Lin Fengtian when she went on screen for a trial photo. Chapter 695. In the end, Lin Fengtian almost kicked her out, and she almost lost her job. She was really wronged. Yun Shusher was different, though. Her facial features were too sculpted. Every makeup that Ding Ning put on her according to her character could bring out her beauty. It was unparalleled. Yun Shishir would not rush her, make things difficult for her, or humiliate her like Yan Bingqing did. Not only was she good-tempered, but she also knew how to respect others. She was really grateful. Before Yun Shishir became famous, the production crew did not take her seriously. They did not even put her in their eyes when she played a minor role in a movie. After she became famous, she was neither arrogant nor impatient. She did not throw her weight around. She still arrived at the set on time and obeyed the crew's arrangements. She was still as calm and elegant as before. She did not take to heart the minor roles who had offended her in the past. If it were a celebrity like Yan Bingqing, she would definitely get back at them, but she did not. She was really a special person. Gradually, everyone liked her from the bottom of their hearts. The three of them were chatting. This rare leisure time was suddenly interrupted by footsteps outside the door. The sound of high heels hitting the ground was crisp and powerful. Immediately after, the door was pushed open and Yan Bingqing walked into the dressing room coolly. She turned around. When she saw that it was her, the smile on her face froze. Seeing that Yan Bingqing had returned to the set, the smile on Ding Ning's face gradually turned cold. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, was the only one who remained unfazed. She did not even spare her a glance as she quietly stared at her reflection in the mirror, as if the actress's arrival had nothing to do with her. Yan Bingqing swept her gaze across everyone. Finally, her gaze landed on Mushi, who was trembling at the side. Ever since that incident, Mushi had some psychological trauma toward Yan Bingqing. She was afraid of this woman from the bottom of her heart. Hence, when she saw her, she could not help but shrink into a corner. Yun Shishir glanced at Yan Bingqing from the corner of her eye, only to see the latter looking as if she had seen a ghost. She smiled helplessly. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Yan Bingqing's cold voice. Yo! What a coincidence. You guys are here too. Mushi lowered her head and subconsciously hid behind Yun Shishir without saying a word. Yun Shishir reached out and covered Mushi's hand on her shoulder. Yan Bingqing's bright red lips curled into a smile when she saw Mushi's cowering look. What a loyal dog. The relationship between master and servant is pretty good. She continued to tremble in silence. Yan Bingqing asked coldly, Hey, is your hand better? Ding Ning, why did you stop? Yun Shishir acted as if she had not heard Yan Bingqing's words. Seeing that Ding Ning was in a daze at the side, she reminded her. Ding Ning smiled and immediately made small talk. I was distracted just now. I was thinking of what lip color to match for you. What do you think about peach pink? Do as you deem fit. I believe in your taste. Yun Shishir smiled slightly. Her indifference made it seem as if Yan Bingqing did not exist, as if she were air. Yan Bingqing's face instantly turned sullen. This Yun Shishir was really capable. Every word she said was not hurtful, but she had the ability to make her angry out of embarrassment. She said hatefully, Yun Shishir, get out of here. This dressing room is mine, you have no share. She raised her head to look at her. She opened her mouth to defend her, but Yun Shishir suddenly pressed her hand down as if to stop her. Her voice, which had just emerged from her throat, stopped abruptly. Chapter 696. The three of them were eerily quiet and ignored Yan Bingqing. Get out. Yan Bingqing's voice was slightly shrill as she gave the order to chase her out again. Yun Shishir still did not move. In a fit of anger, she walked up to Yun Shishir and swept all the makeup products in front of her to the floor. Foundation and eyeshadow were scattered all over the floor in a mess. Ding Ning was taken aback and raised his head in confusion. These were all her makeup products. She could tell that Yan Bingqing hated Yun Shishir, but was there a need to implicate the innocent? Even though she was full of complaints, Ding Ning did not dare to voice them out. That was because she was Yan Bingqing. Her background was Oh Huang's boss, Yang Shoucheng. Who would dare to offend her? Only a newbie like Yun Shishir, who was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. Yun Shishir raised her eyes slightly and cast a sidelong glance at her, as if questioning her childish behavior. What's wrong? I'm talking to you, but you're ignoring me. What's the meaning of this? Are you putting on airs with me? Yan Bingqing questioned her hysterically. Her cold and vicious eyes were as sharp and vicious as a cobra's. Oh, I didn't hear you. Yun Shishir gave a perfunctory explanation. Yan Bingqing was exceptionally furious. You clearly heard me. But I didn't hear you speak human language, did I? Yun Shishir's face was calm and unruffled. Her concise and comprehensive words were full of mockery. Even Ding Ning and Mu Shi, who were behind her, were taken aback. Although Yun Shishir sounded calm when she spoke, her words were filled with inviolable arrogance. How dare she speak to Yan Bingqing like this? Was she not afraid of offending Yan Bingqing? Or was she really a newborn calf who was not afraid of tigers? Did she not know Yan Bingqing's background? Mu Shi's heart pounded wildly. Just as expected. Yan Bingqing's face flushed red with anger at her sarcastic words. Even though her face was covered with thick makeup, it could not hide her redness. She glared fiercely at her and said angrily, Yun Shishir, what do you mean by that? What do you mean I didn't speak human language? Explain it to me clearly. Is this sentence very difficult to understand? A dog's mouth can't spit ivory, have you heard of that? Yun Shishir's lips curled into a mocking sneer. Indeed, you're uncultured. You. Yan Bingqing was exasperated. Suppressing the urge to give her a tight slap, she sneered, revealing her pearly whites. Yun Shishir, I didn't expect you to be so eloquent. I'm a magnanimous person, so I won't argue with you. Get out. Get out. Get out? Yun Shishir asked innocently and curiously, get out to where? This dressing room is mine. Get out and don't come in. You're an eyesore. Yan Bingqing warned her again. On what basis? Yun Shishir was a little amused. Had this Yan Bingqing's manners been eaten by a dog? Yan Bingqing spat out each word viciously, on the basis that I am Yan Bingqing. I heard that you had a fever these few days. I see that your fever has subsided, but is your brain muddled? Aren't you mistaken? Yun Shishir smiled. She then turned her eyes and finally looked her in the eye. This dressing room is shared. Don't tell me you want to monopolize it.